I was standing outside Prairie Glass Hall with a payment envelope in my handbag when I asked Alyssa which entrance I should use. The main doors were 20 feet away. I could see the welcome desk through the glass. People from the ceremony were already gathering there, smoothing dresses, checking place cards, and asking when the ballroom would open. Alyssa looked over my shoulder toward the narrow drive beside the building. A delivery van was parked near a gray metal gate. James stood right beside her. I waited for her answer. She adjusted the bracelet on her wrist, then glanced at James. He lowered his eyes. That was the moment I understood something had gone very wrong. Not with the reception. Not yet. With my son. The envelope in my bag held the unpaid balance. $36,000. I also had a folded contract inside a blue folder. Alyssa didn't know about the folder. James knew I had paperwork, but he'd stopped asking what it said. He wanted me to pay and stay pleasant. That had become my role. 4 years earlier, when Howard died, I would have denied that. I would have told you James was attentive. I would have said he called every Sunday and fixed things around my house. Some of that was true. After the funeral, James came to my house at 214 Cedar Street almost every evening for 2 weeks. He took out the trash. He checked the furnace. He sat at my kitchen table while I picked at toast. Howard had died at 72. I was 66 then, and I'd never spent a night alone in that house. The first night James went home, I left the television on until morning. I wasn't watching it. I just needed another voice downstairs. James understood that without making me explain. "Call me any time," he said. "I mean it, Mom." He was 36 then. He had a good job managing inventory for an agricultural supply company. He'd always been careful with numbers. Howard used to tease him about checking restaurant bills twice. For a while, James handled practical things for me. He helped transfer the utility accounts. He drove me to the insurance office. He stood beside me at the bank while I closed one joint account and kept another open in my name. I didn't need him to make decisions. I needed somebody nearby while I made them. There's a difference. A few months passed. Then the help began moving the other direction. At first, it was small. James needed new tires before winter. I paid for them. His water heater failed. I covered part of that. When his work hours were reduced for 6 weeks, I bought groceries and left them on his porch. He always said, "I'll pay you back." I always said, "Don't worry about it." That was my mistake, not helping him. I don't regret helping my son. My mistake was acting as if nothing had a cost just because I could afford it. Howard and I had lived carefully. We paid off the house. We kept our savings in plain accounts we understood. Howard worked maintenance for the city, and I spent years doing payroll for a small equipment dealer. We weren't wealthy. We were steady. After Howard died, steady was the only thing I trusted. James started seeing Alyssa the following year. The first time he brought her to my house, she arrived with a lemon cake from a bakery downtown. She was polite, very polished. She noticed the old curtains in my dining room and said they were sweet. I couldn't tell if she liked them. At dinner, she asked about Howard. I appreciated that. Most people had started avoiding his name because they thought it would upset me, as if I'd forgotten he was dead until somebody mentioned him. Alyssa listened while James told her about Howard teaching him to change brake pads. Then she smiled at me and said, "You must have done everything for those two." "Not everything," I said. James laughed. "Pretty close." I looked at him. He didn't notice. Alyssa and James became engaged in 2025. He called me the same night. "Mom," she said yes. I was in the kitchen rinsing a soup bowl. I shut off the water. "That's wonderful," I said. "Are you happy?" "So happy." Alyssa came onto the phone. "Mary, I'm shaking." I could hear people talking behind them. They were at a restaurant in Omaha. James had proposed after dinner. "Take a breath," I told her, "and let me see the ring tomorrow." She laughed. "You'll be the first. I wasn't the first." She posted pictures before they drove home. That didn't bother me much. People get excited. I told myself I was being old-fashioned. The next afternoon, they came to Cedar Street with a binder. Alyssa had already divided it into sections: venue, flowers, clothing, photography, music. James carried the cake she'd bought to celebrate. They sat at my kitchen table for nearly 3 hours. Alyssa showed me pictures of white flowers hanging above long tables. James discussed food as if he'd gone without it all his life. "We don't need anything huge," he said. Alyssa turned a page. "Not huge, just intentional." I asked what intentional meant. She smiled. "Every detail has a purpose." I should have asked whether every person did too. Instead, I poured coffee. They wanted the ceremony at a small church and the reception at Prairie Glass Hall in Fremont. I knew the place. Howard and I had attended a retirement dinner there years before. It had tall windows, pale brick walls, and a ballroom that looked warm after sunset. Alyssa showed me the package price. James watched my face. "We're still comparing," he said quickly. I knew what he was doing. He wanted me to offer without having to ask. I thought about Howard. I thought about the wedding we'd given James years before in our minds, whenever we talked about his future. Howard had always said he wanted James to have one good day where nobody checked the price of the chicken, so I made the offer. "I'll pay for the reception." James stared at me. Alyssa's hand stopped on the binder. "Mom, no," James said. "That's too much. I can do it. You don't have to." "I know." Alyssa leaned forward. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Her eyes filled. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "This means everything," she said. For a little while, I believed her. Prairie Glass Hall required the person paying to sign the banquet contract. That was how I met Caleb Fisher. Caleb was 44, with silver starting at his temples and a habit of tapping his pen once before answering a question. We met in his event office at the hall. Alyssa and James came with me. Caleb reviewed the guest estimate, meal choices, and payment schedule. He spoke plainly. I liked that. "The initial deposit is $12,000, he said. "The remaining balance will be due under the final event order." Alyssa asked about adding a late-night food station. James asked if the bar package included imported beer. I asked who was responsible for the agreement. Caleb turned the contract toward me. "You are, Mrs. Watson. You're the contracting client." Alyssa looked up from her binder. "But it's our wedding," she said. "Of course," Caleb replied. "You'll make the event choices." Mrs. Watson is the client because she's funding the reception. There was a small pause. Then Alyssa smiled. "That makes sense." Caleb showed us the signature line. He explained that later, changes would require approval if they affected the price. I signed my name. Then I wrote a check for $12,000. That was the first large check I'd written since Howard's funeral expenses. My hand didn't shake, but I noticed the room had gone quiet. James put his hand on my shoulder. "Dad would have loved this place." "Yes," I said. "He would have." Caleb gave me the executed contract in a blue folder. Alyssa reached for it, then stopped. "I can keep all the wedding paperwork together," she said. "I'll keep the contract," I told her. "You keep the planning binder." Her smile tightened for half a second. Then it returned. Perfect. At home, I placed the blue folder in the bottom drawer of Howard's desk. I still called it Howard's desk, though everything in it belonged to me. For the first month, Alyssa included me. She sent pictures of centerpieces. She called about table linens. She asked whether James's father should be mentioned in the printed program. "Yes," I said, "but keep it simple." She suggested a small photograph near the guest book. I chose one of Howard in his navy suit. He was standing by the lilac bushes outside our house, pretending he didn't know I was taking his picture. James loved it. "That's him," he said when I showed it to them. "That's exactly him." We decided the photograph would sit beside a short card with Howard's name. Alyssa also asked me to give a toast at the reception. "Nothing formal," she said, "just something about James growing up and about Howard." I bought a small cream-colored notebook for it. I kept it beside my bed. Some nights I wrote one sentence. Other nights I crossed out everything. I didn't want to embarrass James. I wanted to say something true. Then the planning changed. It began with a tasting. Alyssa mentioned it on a Sunday afternoon when she and James stopped by for coffee. "We finally picked the beef," she said. "The first sauce was way too salty." I set 3 mugs on the table. "You had the tasting?" She looked at James. He reached for the sugar. "It was Thursday," he said. "Kind of last minute." I'd kept Thursday open because the tasting had been discussed for weeks. I thought I was coming. Alyssa made a little face, sympathetic but hurried. "We only had 2 seats. Caleb said 3 people could attend." "Did he?" She said it lightly, like we were discussing a weather report. James stirred his coffee long after the sugar had dissolved. "It wasn't a big thing, Mom." I looked at his spoon, tapping the cup. "All right." Alyssa began describing the potatoes. A week later, I received a florist invoice by email. It included an extra arrangement for the family table. I forwarded it to Alyssa and asked which arrangement was mine. She replied, "Don't worry about seating yet, it's still moving." I called James. "Am I sitting at the family table?" He sighed before answering. "Mom, there are divorced parents and step-families on Alyssa's side. It's complicated. It's one table." "I know." "So where am I sitting?" "We don't have the final chart." That was the first answer. The next was about the toast. Alyssa called on a Tuesday morning while I was folding Howard's old wool blanket for storage. "We're tightening the speaking portion," she said. "The photographer says long toasts ruin the timeline. Mine isn't long." "I know, but we're keeping it to the best man and maid of honor. You asked me to speak." "I did, and I'm sorry." Plans change. I held the blanket against my waist. "Does James know?" "He agrees we need to stay on schedule. Put him on the phone. He's at work. Then I'll call him there." Her voice sharpened. "Mary, please don't make every adjustment a family issue." I said nothing. She softened immediately. "I'm trying to protect the flow of the day." "I understand what you're trying to protect." I hung up before she could answer. James called that evening. "Why did you upset Alyssa?" I was at Howard's desk with the cream notebook open. She removed my toast. "It's not personal. It had your father's name in it." He went quiet. Then he said, "Can you please keep the peace?" I closed the notebook. "Where am I sitting, James?" "What?" "At the reception I'm paying for." "Where am I sitting?" "I told you the chart isn't done. Will I be seated with family?" He breathed out slowly. "You are family." That wasn't my question. "Mom, I have to go." After the call, I opened the bottom drawer. The blue folder was where I'd left it. I read the first page, then the signature page. My name appeared 4 times. James's name appeared in the event description. Alyssa's did too. Neither one had signed anything. The next morning, I called Prairie Glass Hall. Caleb answered. "Mrs. Watson, good morning. I need to confirm something." "Certainly. Who receives changes to the final cost?" "You do. Any additions affecting price require your approval." "Not James. He can discuss them. He can't authorize charges under your agreement." I looked at the wedding emails on my laptop. Several came from Alyssa. Every question about money had been sent through James. "Has anyone asked you to stop copying me?" Caleb paused. "Alyssa requested that planning details go through her. Did you agree?" "For design details, yes, not financial approval." That was my first useful answer. I thanked him and ended the call. Then I took the cream notebook meant for my toast. I turned past the words I'd written about Howard. On a clean page, I wrote the date of the tasting, the missing seat, the canceled toast, and James asking me to keep the peace. Under that, I wrote one question. What exactly am I paying for? I placed the notebook beside the blue folder, closed Howard's desk drawer, and kept the key. The key stayed in my apron pocket while I made lunch. James called before I finished slicing an apple. "Are you busy Saturday?" That was how he usually began. He never asked for anything in the first sentence. "What time?" "Most of the afternoon." I put down the knife. "What do you need?" "A rental company is bringing some reception stuff to our place. Alyssa and I have a flower appointment." "What kind of stuff?" "Table number stands. Some signs." "I'm not sure. You want me to wait at your house?" "Only until they come." I looked at the calendar beside my refrigerator. I'd planned to visit the cemetery and replace the faded flowers near Howard's marker. "What time is the delivery?" They gave us a window. "Noon to 4. Of course they had. "All right," I said. "Thanks, Mom, you're saving us." That sentence still worked on me. Saturday afternoon, I let myself into their house with the spare key James had given me. Alyssa had tied a white ribbon around the key ring. She said it would help me remember which key was theirs. I remembered without the ribbon. The rental company arrived at 3:40. The driver left 8 boxes in the garage. 2 were heavier than he expected, so I helped slide them against the wall. When he left, I washed my hands in the kitchen. A printed schedule lay on the counter beside Alyssa's binder. I wasn't looking for anything. The first page had large blue letters across the top, "Wedding Planning Schedule." The tasting appeared halfway down the page. It had been booked 3 weeks in advance. I read the line twice. Thursday, 6 o'clock, menu tasting, James and Alyssa. My name wasn't crossed out. It had never been added. The flower appointment that day had 4 names below it. 2 belonged to Alyssa's parents. They had been invited. I stepped away from the counter. A few minutes later, James and Alyssa came through the garage carrying flower samples. Alyssa had a bundle of white roses in one hand. "You're still here," she said. The delivery was late. James looked at the boxes. "This is more than I expected." So was the wait. He gave me a tired smile. "Sorry." Alyssa put the roses in the sink. "Since you're here, could you take the invitation boxes to the post office Monday? They need to be hand-canceled." I didn't know what that meant. "Why?" "The machines can damage them." She said it as though the post office had been built to attack wedding envelopes. "How many are there?" "About 160. James opened the refrigerator. "Did you eat, Mom?" "I'm fine." He nodded and started looking for something else. I pointed at the schedule. The tasting wasn't last minute. James stopped moving. Alyssa turned from the sink. "What? You booked it 3 weeks ahead." She looked at the page, then at me. "That schedule changes constantly." The date didn't change. It was easier with 2 people. "Then why didn't you say that?" James closed the refrigerator. "Mom." I kept my eyes on him. "You told me it was last minute. I didn't want this exact conversation. That was honest, at least." Alyssa leaned against the counter. "It was 1 meal, Mary. I know what it was." "Then why are we doing this?" "Because I asked a simple question." James rubbed the back of his neck. "Alyssa wanted 1 appointment where we didn't have 3 opinions. 3. He looked at me. "Hers, mine, and yours." I waited. "So you knew I wasn't invited?" He glanced toward Alyssa. "Yes." There it was. A small truth, but clean. Alyssa picked up the schedule and slipped it into her binder. "We weren't trying to hurt you. You were trying to avoid telling me." "That's not the same thing. It feels very similar from this side." James shut his eyes for a second. "Can we not turn every wedding decision into a test?" I picked up my handbag. "No. You can take the invitations Monday." Alyssa straightened. "I have meetings all day, so do the people at the post office. You'll find a time." I kissed James on the cheek. He barely turned toward me. In my car, I sat with both hands on the steering wheel. I should have felt pleased that I'd said no. Instead, I thought about the invitations sitting in their front room. My name was probably on one. I hadn't seen it yet. That was the embarrassing part. I still wanted to see it. The following Sunday, James and Alyssa came to dinner at Cedar Street. I made Howard's chicken recipe, the one with mustard and breadcrumbs. James had loved it since he was old enough to reach the stove. They arrived 40 minutes late. Alyssa carried 3 boxes of unfinished wedding favors. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "Your dining table is bigger." I looked at the food warming in the oven. "You brought work?" "Only if we feel like it after dinner." James kissed my cheek and set a bottle of wine on the counter. We thought it might be fun. We ate in the kitchen because the dining table was covered with ribbon, small candles, and printed cards. James talked about a problem at work. A shipment had gone to the wrong warehouse. Alyssa spent most of dinner answering messages. I asked if her parents liked the flowers. Her thumb stopped over the screen. They did. Which ones did they choose? James took a drink of water. Alyssa placed her phone face down. We all liked the roses. I saw them. She gave me a careful smile. My mother has strong opinions, but she knows the look I want. I picked up my fork. And mine were a problem. I didn't say that. You didn't need to. James looked toward the dining room. Can we have one normal dinner? I almost apologized. The word was already in my mouth. Then I looked at the favors spread across my table. They'd arrived late, brought work, and spent dinner avoiding what they'd done. I cooked a normal dinner, I said. You brought the wedding. James put down his fork. Alyssa's chair moved back slightly. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Then James took another piece of chicken. It's good, Mom. That was our peace agreement. Food and silence. After dinner, Alyssa opened the boxes. Each candle needed a ribbon and a card. She showed me how to loop the ribbon. Keep the knot on the back, she said, and make sure the names face forward. The cards had their names and the wedding date, nothing else. James poured the wine. Alyssa sat at the head of my table with her binder open. I tied ribbons for nearly an hour. At first it felt comfortable. My hands had something to do. James played music on his phone. Alyssa laughed when one ribbon slipped from his fingers. This was what I'd been trying to keep. Not the candles, not the wedding. I wanted people at my table. After Howard died, the house had become too neat. Nothing moved unless I moved it. No wet towel appeared in the bathroom. No shoes waited near the back door. When James visited, the rooms felt used again. I'd begun saying yes because yes brought his car into my driveway. That thought came quietly. I didn't like it. Alyssa's phone rang. She took the call at the table. Yes, I have the draft, she said. No, his mother won't be at that table. My hands stopped. James looked at her. Alyssa turned her chair away from me. Put her near the Cedar Street group, she continued. She knows those people. I placed the candle down. What Cedar Street group? Alyssa covered the phone. This is about seating. I understood that. She spoke into the phone again. I'll call you back. Then she ended the call. James studied the label on the wine bottle. I wiped a piece of ribbon from my lap. Who was sitting at the family table? Alyssa opened her binder. We're still arranging it. You just said I won't be there. The family table is small. How small? 10 seats. Who has them? She flipped a page without reading it. The wedding party has some. My parents, my sister, and her husband. And James's family? You'll be close. That isn't what I asked. James set the bottle down. Mom, you'll know everyone at your table. I turned to him. Which people? Some of the neighbors. People who knew Dad. Howard and I had lived on Cedar Street for 33 years. Several neighbors had watched James grow up. I liked them. That wasn't the point. You're seating me with my own address book. Alyssa pressed her lips together. It seemed thoughtful. Is there nobody from your side at that table? She didn't answer. I looked at James. He shifted in his chair. Alyssa's parents are hosting the rehearsal dinner, he said, as if that answered something. What are they hosting at the reception? Mom, don't. I'm asking. They're being introduced with us. And I'm not? Alyssa closed the binder. We can't introduce every relative. I'm the groom's mother. The room went quiet. James looked tired, not ashamed. Tired. That hurt more than I expected. Alyssa gathered several loose cards. This is exactly why details weren't finalized. No, this is why you didn't want me to see them. James stood. We should go. Alyssa stared at him. We have over 100 candles left. We'll finish them at home. He began putting them into boxes. I watched him clear my dining table. He moved quickly, like the problem was the mess and not the conversation. Then he noticed the cream notebook on the sideboard. Is that your toast? It was. His face changed. Can I read it? No. I wanted to hear what you wrote about Dad. You had the chance. Alyssa carried one box toward the door. James, please. He stayed near the sideboard. Mom, I didn't remove the toast. You agreed. I agreed to shorter speeches. Mine was 3 minutes. How do you know? I timed it. He looked at the notebook again. I want Dad included. I stood beside him. Your father is included. His photograph will be there. That's not the same. No, it isn't. He had nothing to say to that. Alyssa came back into the room. Are we leaving? James picked up the last box. At the front door, he paused. I was going to ask you something. What? Do you still have Dad's cufflinks? I knew which ones he meant. Plain silver squares Howard wore to weddings and Christmas dinners. Yes. I thought I could wear them. Alyssa's expression softened. She liked the idea. I could see that immediately. I looked at my son holding a box of candles I'd helped prepare for a table where I didn't belong. I'll think about it, I said. James frowned. They're for me. They belong to your father. Now they belong to me. I know that. Do you? Alyssa opened the door. We're not fighting over cufflinks. No, I said, we're not. After they left, I scraped cold chicken into a container. There were 6 pieces left. I'd cooked extra because James usually took food home. He hadn't asked for it. I had already packed it. I stood at the counter with the lid in my hand. Then I put the chicken in my own refrigerator. The next morning, James sent me a message. Are you still coming Wednesday to meet the linen company? I read it while drinking coffee. No hello. No mention of the seating. No question about whether I was all right. Just another task. I typed yes, then I erased it. I opened my calendar. I had nothing scheduled Wednesday. That had never stopped me from telling other people I was unavailable. Somehow, it had stopped me with James. I wrote back, no. Ask someone included in the planning. He called within a minute. What does that mean? It means I'm not meeting the linen company. You said you would. That was before I learned you lied about the tasting. He lowered his voice. I didn't lie. You said it was last minute. I was trying to keep things calm. You were trying to keep me useful. Mom, that's unfair. Then tell me what I'm allowed to do besides pay, wait for deliveries, tie ribbons, and meet vendors. He said nothing. I let the silence remain. Finally, he asked, Are you still paying the balance? There it was. Not where will you sit. Not do you still feel welcome. The balance isn't due today, I said. Alyssa needs to know. Alyssa can ask me. She doesn't want another argument. Then she shouldn't send you to collect money. His breathing changed. We're under a lot of pressure. So am I. From what? I looked across the kitchen at Howard's empty chair. From wanting a place in my son's life so badly that I keep accepting errands instead. James went quiet. I almost took it back. I almost told him I was only upset and would meet the linen company after all. Instead, I waited. He finally said, I have to get to work. All right. He ended the call. I carried my coffee to Howard's desk. The blue folder stayed in the drawer. I didn't open it. I took out the cream notebook and added one sentence beneath the others. James's first question was whether I would still pay. Then I called the linen company and gave them James's number. The linen company called me 20 minutes later. A woman asked whether the contact change was permanent. For this appointment, yes, I said. Should we remove you from all planning messages? No, I'm the contracting client for the reception. She paused. I don't have you listed that way. How am I listed? As the groom's mother? That's true, too. She apologized, though it wasn't her mistake. I gave her Caleb's name and asked her to confirm the billing contact with Prairie Glass Hall. James called again during lunch. The linen company says you told them to call me. I did. I'm working Wednesday. So was I when you scheduled me. You're retired. I looked at the clock above my stove. That doesn't make my time yours. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? He made a sound like he was moving papers. I'll figure it out. Good. Before he ended the call, I asked one more thing. What's the current reception balance? You know the balance. No, I know the original estimate. It's around $30,000. Around? Alyssa has the exact number. You asked if I was still paying it, because it's your agreement, but you don't know how much you're asking me to pay. He went quiet. I have to go, Mom. That afternoon, I opened every message I had from Prairie Glass Hall. The original estimate showed a total of $42,000. My deposit reduced the expected balance to $30,000. A later message mentioned revised guest numbers. Another referred to upgraded linens. Neither included a new total. Alyssa had forwarded both messages to James. James had then written to me a few small changes, nothing major. I searched my inbox for the words food station. The only result was Alyssa's first planning email, where she'd said they probably wouldn't need one. I called Caleb. "Do you have time to see me tomorrow?" "Yes." "Is there a problem?" "I don't know yet." He offered 10:30. I wrote the time in my calendar. Then I took the blue folder from Howard's desk and placed it in my handbag. I hadn't planned to bring it. I already knew I'd signed the contract. Still, carrying it made me feel less like somebody's mother asking for an explanation. The next morning, I drove to Prairie Glass Hall. The parking lot was almost empty. A delivery truck stood near the side of the building, but the main doors were unlocked. Caleb met me at the welcome desk. He wore a gray suit without a tie. A radio was clipped to his belt. "Mrs. Watson, thank you for making time." "Of course." He led me past the ballroom and into the event office. The ballroom doors were open. Several round tables stood against one wall, stacked on their sides. The room looked plain in daylight. No flowers, no music. Just carpet, folded chairs, and two people measuring a space near the windows. That helped. Alyssa had talked about the hall as if it were already filled with candles and white roses. Standing there, I could see what it actually was. A room waiting to be paid for. Caleb pulled out a chair in his office. "What can I clarify?" I took the contract from my handbag. The linen company didn't know I was the client. He frowned. They should. They listed me only as the groom's mother. He turned to his computer. "Let me check the planning file." I watched him read. He tapped his pen once against the desk. The couple asked vendors to use Alyssa as the design contact. I know. That should not have changed the billing information. Who changed it? I can't see that from here. The linen company keeps its own records. I nodded. What is the current total? He clicked through two screens. The working estimate is $48,000. I sat back. That's $6,000 more than I signed for. It includes requested additions. Which additions? Caleb printed a page and placed it between us. The guest count had increased by 24. The basic linens had been changed to a more expensive fabric. A late-night food station had been added after all. There was also extra time for the bar. I read each line. Who approved these? They aren't approved yet. Alyssa ordered them. She requested them. We marked them pending. Pending what? Your written approval. I looked at the total again. So the unpaid balance would be $36,000. If all current additions are approved, yes. Has James told you I agreed? He said he would confirm with you. He hasn't asked. Caleb leaned back slightly. I'm glad you came in. That was not a comforting sentence. I pointed at the guest count. When did this change? Last Friday. And the linens? 2 weeks ago. The food station? Monday. That was the same Monday Alyssa wanted me to take invitations to the post office. I put the printed estimate beside my contract. What happens if I don't approve them? They come off the event order. The original reception continues? Yes, under the package you signed. It was useful information, but it opened another question. Why was I told these were small changes? Caleb didn't answer. He couldn't. I tried another way. Has Alyssa asked you to keep financial details from me? He took a moment before replying. She asked us to avoid overwhelming you with planning messages. I gave him a look. He lifted one hand. I told her cost changes had to go to you. What exactly did she say? He turned back to the screen. She said James would handle communication about the remaining payment. Handle it how? She didn't explain. I thought about James asking whether I was still paying. He didn't know the total. He didn't know which changes created it. He wasn't handling communication. He was being used to collect a check. I closed the contract. From now on, send every cost change directly to me. Absolutely. Don't approve anything through James. We wouldn't. And don't let anyone describe me as confused or overwhelmed. Caleb's face tightened. Has someone done that? You just used the word. I was repeating her request. I know, I'm correcting it. He nodded. I understand. I'm 70, Mr. Fisher. I spent years doing payroll. I can read an invoice. I have no doubt. Good. He typed something into the file. Then he turned the monitor slightly so I could see. Mary Watson, contracting client. Direct written approval required for all cost changes. Is that clear enough? He asked. Yes. He printed the note and signed the bottom. I hadn't asked him to sign it, but I appreciated that he did. When will the final event order be ready? I asked. Next week. It will include the service timeline, guest estimate, room setup, and entrance plan. Entrance plan? Where the wedding party and family gather before the reception introductions. It also covers vendor access and deliveries. Will I receive it? You're required to approve the financial portions. I can send the full order. Please do. I will. He folded his hands on the desk. I should mention one thing. The couple wants the additions confirmed by Friday. This Friday? Yes. Some items require advance ordering. Then they have a deadline. You do too, technically. We need your decision. I looked at the new estimate. I won't approve anything I haven't discussed with them. That's reasonable. Do they know that? Not yet. They will. Caleb walked me back to the main entrance. We passed the ballroom again. One of the workers rolled a table across the floor. Its wheels squeaked with every turn. At the welcome desk, Caleb handed me his card. Call me directly if anything in the final order concerns you. I placed it inside the blue folder. Outside, I sat in my car and called James. He answered on the third ring. Mom, I'm at work. I'll be brief. Did you know the reception total increased by $6,000? Silence. What? 24 more guests, upgraded linens, a food station, and extra bar time. I knew about some of it. Which part? The guests. Did you know the new balance? No. Did Alyssa tell you I approved it? I assumed she talked to you. She didn't. He lowered his voice. Where are you? Prairie Glass Hall. You went there? Yes. Why? Because I signed the agreement. You could have asked us. I asked you yesterday. You said around 30,000. That's what I thought. Exactly. I heard a door close on his end. Please don't call Alyssa right now, he said. Why not? She has a lot going on. She had enough time to add $6,000. She thought you'd be okay with it. She didn't ask. Mom, it's the wedding. That doesn't answer anything. He exhaled. What are you going to do? I'm going to speak with both of you tonight. I don't know if tonight works. Friday is the deadline. Tonight works. He asked me to wait. I heard him calling someone's name. Then the line went quiet. When he returned, his voice sounded strained. I can come over at 7 with Alyssa. I'll ask her, don't ask. Tell her the person paying needs to discuss the bill. Can you not say it like that? How should I say it? He didn't have an answer. I drove from the hall to the cemetery. The flowers near Howard's marker had faded almost white. I removed them and wiped dirt from the stone with a cloth I kept in the car. I didn't talk to him there. Some people do. I never could. I sat on the bench nearby and opened the estimate. Howard would have noticed the difference immediately. He wouldn't have cared about the napkins or the food station. He would have circled the total and asked who authorized it. I had known that. I'd avoided doing it because asking questions made James uncomfortable. Every time he said he was under pressure, I tried to remove the pressure, usually with money. The realization wasn't pleasant. Alyssa had taken advantage of my willingness. James had helped her. But I had trained both of them to expect my yes before they gave me the whole question. My phone rang. Alyssa. I answered. Mary, why did you go to the venue? To see the current estimate. You embarrassed me. How? Caleb emailed all of us saying future changes need your written approval. That's what the contract requires. We know that. Then why didn't I receive the changes? They were drafts. They added $6,000. Nothing was final. But you expected me to make it final. We expected you to support the wedding you offered to pay for. I offered to pay for the reception we discussed. Her voice went flat. So you're refusing everything now. I didn't say that. That's how this feels. I looked at the open estimate on my lap. This isn't about how it feels. Bring the binder tonight. We'll go through each edition. I have appointments. Then remove the additions. She took a sharp breath. You can't give us a gift and then supervise every choice. I can supervise charges made under my name. James said you wanted us to have the day we wanted. I did? Did? The word hung between us. I chose my answer carefully. Come at 7. She ended the call without agreeing. At 6:50, I cleared the kitchen table. I set out 3 glasses of water. No dinner, no cake, nothing that would let us hide inside being pleasant. At 7:12, James's car pulled into my driveway. He came in alone. Alyssa isn't coming, he said. Why? She's upset. So am I. She thinks you're taking over. I placed the printed estimate on the table. I asked her to explain 4 charges. She doesn't want to be interrogated. Then you explain them. He sat down and stared at the page. For the next 10 minutes, I asked where the extra guests came from, why the linens changed, who wanted the food station, and why the bar needed more time. James knew the names of 11 extra guests. He wasn't sure about the rest. He thought the linen upgrade came with the package. He had never seen the food station price. When I asked about the bar, he rubbed both hands over his face. Alyssa said people would stay later. Who is paying the overtime? He looked at the estimate. You are. It was the first time he'd said it plainly. I slid a pen toward him. Circle the additions you personally requested. He circled the extra guests. Nothing else. Then I drew a line through the other 3. What are you doing? I'm not approving those. Alyssa will lose it. She has until Friday to explain them herself. He pushed back from the table. This is supposed to be a gift. A gift isn't permission to spend without asking. He stood and picked up his keys. You're making this harder. No, I'm making it visible. After he left, I emailed Caleb. I approved only the 11 guests James had identified. I declined the upgraded linens, food station, extra bar time, and the remaining unconfirmed guests. Caleb replied 9 minutes later. Received. The working order has been updated. My decision had worked. Then a second message arrived. I looked at the time, added the meeting to my calendar, and put the signed estimate inside the blue folder. The meeting began at 9 the next morning. I arrived 5 minutes early. Caleb had placed 4 copies of the working estimate on the table. James came in at 9:07. Alyssa followed him without looking at me. She wore a beige coat and carried the wedding binder against her chest. Caleb closed the office door. Thank you for coming, he said. We need to settle the pending additions before ordering deadlines. Alyssa sat across from me. We already settled them. Caleb looked at her. Mrs. Watson declined several items last night. That's what I mean. James sat between us, though the table was wide enough for him to choose either side. Alyssa opened her binder. The food station was part of the guest experience. It wasn't part of the agreement I signed, I said. She turned to Caleb. Can't we move money from somewhere else? We can revise the package, he said, but Mrs. Watson must approve any change affecting the total or services. Alyssa's jaw tightened. She gave us the reception as a gift. Caleb folded his hands. I'm only explaining the agreement. James looked at the estimate. What if we keep the food station and use the original linens? That reduces the increase, Caleb said. By how much? He entered the change on his computer. $2,100. Alyssa shook her head. The basic linens look cheap. They're white tablecloths, I said. They photograph flat. I waited, thinking I'd misunderstood her. What does that mean? They don't have texture. James touched her arm. Let's focus. I am focused, she said. We chose everything for a reason. I looked at the 4-page estimate. You chose things you expected me to pay for. She turned toward me. You're making me sound greedy. I'm describing the invoice. Caleb cleared his throat. We can go line by line. So we did. The extra bar time came off first. James agreed it wasn't necessary. The 24 extra guests became 14. James had identified 11. Alyssa named 3 more while we sat there. The rest were people she hoped might attend if others declined. Caleb explained that the hall couldn't order meals for possible guests. The food station took longer. Alyssa said it had been discussed from the beginning. I reminded her that her first email said they wouldn't need it. She said her vision had evolved. Finally, James said, "Let it go." She stared at him. "You wanted it too. I wanted peace at my wedding." I almost laughed. He had started using that word as if peace meant nobody making Alyssa unhappy. Caleb removed the food station. Then we reached the linens. Alyssa turned a photograph toward me. The fabric was cream-colored with a raised pattern. "This is what ties the room together." I looked at it. "It's nice. Thank you. I'm still not paying $2,100 for it." Her smile disappeared. James leaned toward me. "Could that be our wedding present?" "The reception is your wedding present." "I know. I mean, could the upgrade be part of it? Why are you asking now?" He looked down. Alyssa answered for him. "Because you've made it clear everything needs formal permission. It needs permission before it's ordered under my name. I didn't realize your gift came with this much paperwork." Caleb looked at the contract. The paperwork was always there. She turned on him. "I understand that. He didn't react. I liked him for that." James rubbed his forehead. "What if we pay for the linens?" Alyssa looked at him quickly. "From what?" "Our savings. We need that money for the trip and the house." He lowered his voice. "It's $2,100. That isn't the point." It was exactly the point. I sat back and let them discuss it. For the first time, the price belonged inside their conversation. They spoke more carefully once their own money entered it. After several minutes, Alyssa closed the photograph. "We'll use the basic linens." Caleb updated the estimate. The total dropped close to the original amount. The additional 14 meals added some cost, but the larger upgrades were gone. He printed the revised page and placed it in front of me. "Mrs. Watson, are you comfortable approving this version?" I read every line. "Yes." I signed the bottom. Caleb made copies. Alyssa watched him give mine to me. "So that's it?" she asked. "For these items," he said. "The full event order will still need review. By her. By the contracting client." James picked up his copy. Alyssa didn't touch hers. When the meeting ended, she walked ahead of us through the lobby. James waited near the main doors while I put my paperwork into the blue folder. "Mom," he said quietly, "you didn't have to do that in front of Caleb." "Do what?" "Question every decision. It was a planning meeting. You made Alyssa feel like she was asking permission to have her own wedding. She was asking permission to spend my money." His mouth tightened. "You keep saying it that way. There isn't another accurate way." He looked toward the parking lot. Alyssa was standing beside their car with her arms folded. "We're less than a month out." "I know. Can you stop making changes now?" "I removed changes I never approved." "You know what I mean." "No, James, I don't think I do anymore." He glanced at the folder. "Are you still bringing the final payment?" "The final order isn't ready, but when it is, I'll review it." He looked as if he wanted a different answer. Alyssa called his name from the car. He started toward her, then turned back. "You could have just trusted us." "I did." That stopped him. Neither of us added anything. I went home and placed the revised estimate in Howard's desk. My coffee from that morning was still in the pot. I warmed it and carried the cup to the dining room. Several short pieces of white ribbon remained under the table. I picked them up one by one. At noon, Alyssa sent a message. "I hope proving your point was worth humiliating us." I read it twice. Then I answered. I approved the reception we discussed. She began typing. The little dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. Finally, one sentence arrived. "You have no idea what this has done." I set the phone down. She was right about one thing. I didn't know what she'd told anyone. I found out that evening. Howard's sister, Linda, called while I was washing my coffee cup. "Mary, what's happening with the wedding?" "Which part?" "The money." I dried my hands. "What have you heard?" "Alyssa said the reception is being cut because you changed your mind." "I didn't change my mind." "She said you removed half the plans." I declined 4 additions I hadn't approved. Linda was quiet. What kind of additions? More guests, expensive linens, more bar time, and food after dinner. Oh. That small sound told me Alyssa hadn't mentioned those details. Linda continued. James said there was a misunderstanding. James says that when he doesn't want to choose a sentence. Are you still paying for the reception? Yes. The whole thing. The one I agreed to. She sighed. I'm not trying to get involved. You called me. I know. Alyssa asked me to. There was the wider problem. What did she ask you to do? To help you see how much stress this is causing. I pulled out a dining chair and sat down. Did she tell you I was removed from the tasting? No. Did she tell you my toast was canceled? Linda didn't answer. Did she tell you I'm not at the family table? No. Then she didn't ask you to help. She asked you to apply pressure without giving you the facts. Linda let out a slow breath. I didn't know any of that. I know. Why didn't James tell me? You'll have to ask him. She hesitated. What do you want me to do? Nothing. This isn't your bill. That's fair. Before we ended the call, she said, Howard wouldn't have liked this. I looked at his empty place at the table. No, I said, he wouldn't. The next few days were quiet. No calls from James, no messages from Alyssa. I went to the grocery store, changed the sheets, and took 2 bags of clothes to a donation center. Wednesday morning, I opened the cream notebook. I read the toast I'd written. It wasn't polished. I'd written about James wearing 1 brown shoe and 1 black shoe to his first job interview because Howard had turned off the hallway light too soon. I'd written about the night James called from college after a bad exam. Howard drove 3 hours just to buy him breakfast. At the end, I'd written, Your father would tell you that love is mostly what you do after the photographs are taken. I closed the notebook. That line felt too generous now. The final event order arrived Thursday afternoon. The email came from Caleb with a short message. Please review all pages. Cost changes still require your approval. The couple has provided the operational details. I printed the order. The first pages covered food, tables, music, and timing. The revised total matched what I'd approved at the meeting. Then I reached the entrance plan. It showed the main entrance, the welcome desk, the staff gate, and the service drive. Under the main entrance, the wedding party had a gathering time. Another section listed honored family for the reception introduction. Alyssa's parents were named. Her sister and brother-in-law were named. My name wasn't there. I checked the next page. The seating list placed me at table 12 with 6 people from Cedar Street and 2 of Howard's former co-workers. The host line listed Alyssa and James, and the family contact line listed Alyssa's mother. I searched every page for Mary Watson. My name appeared once. Contracting client. That was all. I called Caleb. I received the order. Do you have questions? Several. I kept my finger on the entrance page. Who gave you the honored family list? Alyssa submitted it. Did James approve it? She copied him on the message. Was I removed? Caleb took a moment. You weren't included in the version we received. What does the entrance plan mean for someone who isn't listed? Guests enter through the main doors after the wedding party clears the lobby. So I enter as a regular guest. According to this plan, yes. Am I part of the reception introduction? No. I stared at the page. Could that be an oversight? It could. I can ask them to confirm. Don't. He waited. I'll speak with James. All right. What happens to the financial approval while I do that? We need the signed event order by Monday. Does my approval cover only the bill? It confirms the services in total. Operational notes can still be adjusted by the couple, so they can change the entrance plan without changing the money. Yes, I thanked him. Then I called James. He didn't answer. I sent one message. I received the entrance plan. Call me tonight. He called at 6:15. What's wrong with the entrance plan? My name isn't on it. Where? Anywhere except the contract line. He was quiet. I haven't looked at the final version. You were copied when Alyssa sent the family list. I get hundreds of wedding emails. This one named the people being introduced as family. Mom, I'm sure it's not personal. Were you planning to introduce me? I thought so. That isn't an answer. He lowered his voice. I'll talk to Alyssa. Talk to her now. She's out. Then call me after. Mom, the introductions are 2 minutes. So is my toast, according to Alyssa. 3 minutes. I looked at the cream notebook. You remembered that. He went silent. I asked, why am I paying for a reception where your mother isn't listed as family? He took a breath. Because you offered. The answer came too quickly. I didn't speak. He tried again. That came out wrong. No, it came out before you fixed it. Please give me tonight. You have until Monday. That's when my approval is due. He sounded alarmed. You're not going to hold up the reception over an entrance list. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. Mom, call me after you speak to your fiancé. I ended the call. At 7, Alyssa posted a photograph of the hall on social media. The caption said some people confuse generosity with control, but love would win anyway. Linda sent me a screenshot within minutes. By 8, 2 relatives had called. At 8:30, James wrote, please don't respond publicly. I didn't. I printed Alyssa's post, placed it behind the entrance plan, and left the unsigned event order on Howard's desk. The next morning, James came to my house before 8. I was still in my robe. He stood on the porch holding a paper cup and a second copy of the event order. I need 5 minutes, he said. I opened the door but didn't invite him farther than the kitchen. He placed the coffee near my elbow. 2 creams. No sugar. He remembered. That almost made the visit worse. Did you speak to Alyssa? Yes. And? She'll add you to the family contact section, the contact section, and the introduction list. I waited. He pulled out a chair. She doesn't want a long introduction. I didn't ask for one. You'll walk in with the family group. Which group? He unfolded his copy of the entrance plan. Alyssa's parents, her sister, and you. Will you be there? I'll be with the wedding party. So your family group is her family. Mom, please. I looked at the changes marked in pen. My name had been squeezed below Alyssa's sister. Why wasn't I there before? It was an oversight. No. He stared at me. No, you were copied on the list. You knew who was on it. I didn't study it. That isn't an oversight. That's avoidance. He pushed the paper toward me. It's fixed. You haven't answered why it happened. Does that matter if it's fixed? Yes. He took a drink from his coffee. Alyssa thought you'd prefer going straight to your table. Why? She said you don't like being the center of attention. I gave payroll reports to a room full of salesmen every Monday for 20 years. I can survive walking through a ballroom. That isn't what I meant. Then what did you mean? He looked toward the window. I knew that look. He used it as a boy when he wanted me to supply the answer that would get him out of trouble. I didn't. Finally, he said, things have been tense. So you thought hiding me would reduce the tension. Nobody was hiding you. My name was missing. It's there now. He reached for the event order. If you sign this today, we can move on. I placed my hand over the page. Is that why you added me? His face changed. That's not fair. Did Alyssa agree to add me before or after you told her I hadn't signed? He stood. You make everything sound calculated. I'm asking for the order of events. It was all one conversation. Which came first? He took his keys from his pocket. I'm going to work. I folded the paper and gave it back. Take your coffee. You can keep it. I have coffee. He left it anyway. After he drove away, I poured it down the sink. At 10, Linda called again. I don't want to keep bothering you. Then don't. She laughed once, but I wasn't joking. I spoke to James, she said. What did he tell you? That you're threatening not to sign the reception order unless they change the family arrangements. I closed my eyes. Those were his words? He said you were tying the money to your place in the wedding. That isn't what happened. I thought I should tell you. I sat at the kitchen table. Thank you. He sounds worried. He should be worried about what he's saying. Linda hesitated. Alyssa's post has people asking questions. Then she can answer them honestly. You know how family gets? Everyone has a version. There should only be one version of a bill. What do you mean? I declined charges they added without asking. The reception I promised is still under contract. That's not what they're telling people. I looked at the unsigned event order. Did James say the reception might be canceled? He said everything was uncertain. That word gave him room to frighten people without making a clear claim. Nothing is uncertain except how they intend to treat me. Linda went quiet. I'm sorry, Mary. So am I. After we hung up, I took every page to the dining table. I made 3 piles. The first held the contract and original estimate. The second held the changes I had approved. The third held the entrance plan, seating list, and Alyssa's post. It took less than 15 minutes. That surprised me. The paperwork wasn't complicated. The confusion came from people discussing one pile as if it controlled the others. I called Caleb. I need to understand what my signature confirms. The event services, final count, and amount, he said. Does it approve the family list? It acknowledges that you reviewed the full order. The couple can revise operational details. Can I sign the financial pages without agreeing that the entrance plan is accurate? He considered that. Yes, you can note that the family and entrance sections remain under review by the couple. Will that hold up the reception? No. Not if the services in total are approved by Monday. Will the reception remain fully contracted? Yes. I picked up my pen. Then I want the record to be clear. Caleb sent a revised approval page while we were still on the phone. It separated the service approval from the operational notes. At the bottom, he had typed a sentence. Contracting client approves listed reception services and charges. Couple retains responsibility for confirming entrance, introduction, and seating details. I read it twice. Does this protect the reception schedule? I asked. It does. And there are no unapproved additions left? Correct. I signed it and scanned it from the small printer in Howard's office. Caleb replied a few minutes later. Received. Contracted reception services remain confirmed. He copied James and Alyssa. The action worked. Nobody could honestly say I had endangered the reception over my seat. I forwarded Caleb's confirmation to Linda with one sentence. The reception remains funded under my agreement. She replied, Understood. I didn't send it to anyone else. At noon, Alyssa called. You signed a separate page. I signed the services. You added language about the entrance plan. Caleb added accurate language. You're creating a record against us. I'm creating a record of what I approved. There you go again. Where? Acting like this is a business transaction. It is when you send me an invoice. It's our wedding. Then make choices you're willing to own. She spoke over me. We added you to the introduction. Why was I missing? Because you said you didn't want attention. When? You've said it plenty of times. Give me one. She stopped. I waited. She tried again. You always say you prefer simple things. That doesn't mean I prefer being omitted. We were trying to make you comfortable. No, you were trying to keep me away from the visible parts while keeping my name on the expensive part. Her breath caught. That is a horrible thing to say. Is it untrue? I'm done with this conversation. Before you go, correct your post. What? Tell people the reception remains funded. I never said it wasn't. You said generosity had become control. I didn't name you. You called Linda and sent her to me. I asked family for support. You gave them half the story. She lowered her voice. You want me to announce our private finances online? You brought them online. I posted about my feelings. You used your feelings to create a false fact. What false fact? That I'm taking your reception away. She didn't answer. Correct it, I said. No. The word was calm. That told me more than shouting would have. I'm not letting you police my page. Then don't use my money as the subject. I didn't. Linda knew enough to call about it. Linda is dramatic. She repeated what James told her. Alyssa's voice changed. What did James tell her? That I was threatening not to sign unless you changed the family arrangements. He shouldn't have said that. No, I'll talk to him. Talk to yourself, too. She hung up. That evening, James called. Why are you involving Aunt Linda? I didn't involve her. Alyssa did. She says you sent Linda financial information. I confirmed the reception remains funded. You shouldn't discuss our wedding budget with people. I looked at Alyssa's printed post. I agree. Then why did you? Because you told Linda I was threatening the reception. I said things were uncertain. Caleb says they aren't. You hadn't signed when I spoke to her. I hadn't received accurate treatment either. He groaned. We changed the list. After you needed my signature. You keep coming back to that. So do you. What do you want from us? The truth. About what? About why my name wasn't there. He was silent long enough that I checked the phone screen. James, I'm here. Did Alyssa leave me off because I challenged the additions? No. Did she leave me off because she didn't want me introduced? He didn't answer. Did you know? I saw an earlier draft. My fingers tightened around the phone. When? Before it went to Caleb. Was my name on that one? No. What did you say? I asked Alyssa if the list was finished. And what did she say? She said it was good enough for now. What did you say after that? His voice became very quiet. I said, okay. The answer settled between us. Not an oversight, not a missed email. He had seen it. What happened next? I asked. She sent it, and you let her. I thought it could be fixed later. By who? I don't know. Me, apparently. Mom, I'm sorry. It was the first apology he'd offered. It came only after I pulled the truth out one question at a time. I didn't accept it. Correct what you told Linda. I will. Tonight. Fine. And tell Alyssa to remove the post. I can't tell her what to do. You could tell her what you won't participate in. He didn't respond. That was his problem in one sentence. He believed speaking clearly to Alyssa was control. Speaking vaguely about me was keeping peace. Before we ended the call, I asked, "Are you wearing your father's cufflinks?" I'd still like to. Why? Because I miss him. So do I. I know. No, James, you know that as a fact. You haven't acted like it matters. He whispered, "What do you want me to do? Stop asking me to make your choices easier." I ended the call. 10 minutes later, Linda sent a message. James called. He admitted you never threatened to cancel the reception. He said you signed the service approval. That was one piece of the false version corrected. Then she sent a second message. He still says the entrance issue was a misunderstanding. I put the phone down. The following afternoon, an email arrived from Alyssa. She had copied James and Caleb. The subject said, "Final Family Logistics." My name appeared on the reception introduction list. Beside it, she had written, "Optional, if comfortable." Her parents, sister, and brother-in-law had no such note. At the bottom, the family gathering time had changed. Everyone listed was expected in the lobby 45 minutes before the ballroom opened. A separate line said I could arrive with regular guests. I called Caleb. "Can both instructions be true?" "No," he said. "If you're part of the family introduction, you need to gather with the group. So why am I told to arrive with regular guests?" I can't answer that. Did you notice the conflict? Yes. I asked Alyssa to clarify. What did she say? That she would handle your arrival personally. I stared at the words on my screen. When? On the wedding day. The reception was funded. My name was finally on the list. Now Alyssa had made herself the person who would decide whether I could use it. I asked him to forward her message. A minute later, the email appeared. Caleb had written, "Please confirm whether Mary should report with the family group or enter with general guests." Alyssa had replied, "I'll speak with Mary on the day." No further action needed. James was copied. He hadn't responded. I called him. "You saw Caleb's question?" "Yes." "Why didn't you answer?" "I figured Alyssa would handle it." "That's the problem. What do you want me to say? Which instruction is correct? You should come with the family. Then tell Caleb, I'm driving. Tell him when you stop." He sighed. I will. Today. Yes, Mom. He didn't do it. By the next afternoon, Caleb still had no answer. Alyssa arrived at my house around 4. She hadn't called first. I was trimming dead leaves from a plant near the front window. When I opened the door, she held up a paper bag from the bakery where she'd bought the lemon cake years earlier. I brought muffins. I stepped aside. She placed the bag on the kitchen counter and removed her coat. For several minutes, she talked about the weather. I made coffee. She asked whether the city had finished repairing the road near the grocery store. I answered each question. The wedding sat between us without being named. Finally, she folded her hands around her mug. We can't keep doing this. Doing what? Fighting over every detail. I asked which arrival instruction was correct. You contacted Caleb again. He contacted you because you involved him. It's his entrance plan. She looked down at her coffee. I came here to make peace. Then answer the question. Her mouth tightened. You can arrive with the family. At what time? 45 minutes before the reception. Through the main entrance? Yes, Mary. And you'll correct the written plan? Why does everything need to be written? Because the written version keeps saying something different. She pushed her chair back a few inches. This is what I mean. You don't trust me. I trusted you when you said the tasting was last minute. That again. It happened. We were trying to make one decision without an argument. There wasn't an argument. I wasn't there. You would have had opinions. You invited your parents to the flower appointment. That was different. Why? My mother understands the style. I took a drink of coffee. And what do I understand? She didn't answer. The refrigerator hummed behind her. Somewhere outside, a truck passed on Cedar Street. Alyssa looked around the kitchen. You've had a hard few years. I set down my mug. Don't. I'm not insulting you. You're about to use Howard's death to explain why I can read an entrance plan. I was going to say you've become very attached to wedding decisions because you miss having family around. The accuracy of one part didn't excuse the rest. You think I don't know that? Her expression changed. I continued. I know why I kept saying yes. That doesn't make your behavior acceptable. I never said it did. You called me controlling in public. I didn't use your name. You sent Linda to my house by telephone. I was upset. So was I. I didn't post about you. She touched the paper bag. The muffins were supposed to be a nice gesture. They are muffins. She looked offended. What does that mean? It means bringing food doesn't answer anything. Her voice became quiet. Do you want to ruin our relationship? I'm trying to find out whether we have one. That's dramatic. Do you want me at the wedding? Of course. Why? She blinked. What kind of question is that? A direct one. You're James's mother. So that matters. Yes. Does it matter to you? She looked toward the window. James wants you there. The answer landed exactly where she intended, softly enough to deny the cruelty, clearly enough that I couldn't miss it. I folded my napkin once. What do you want from me, Alyssa? I want you to enjoy the day without managing it. What do you want from me financially? Her eyes returned to mine. We need the balance paid, obviously. Obviously. You agreed. I did. And now every conversation feels like a threat. I haven't threatened you. You keep reminding us that your name is on the contract, because you keep behaving as if my name belongs only on the contract. She stood. I knew this wouldn't work. What wouldn't? Talking to you alone. You chose to come alone. Because James asked me to try. That sounded more believable. She put on her coat. At the door, she turned back. You are welcome at the wedding. I'm not discussing this again. Will you correct the arrival instructions? I said I'll handle it. That isn't a correction. She opened the door. If you show up ready to be offended, you'll find a reason. Then she left the muffins on my counter and drove away. I didn't eat them. James arrived after 7. This time, he called from the driveway. Can I come in? You're already here. I'm asking. I opened the door. He carried a small wooden box. I recognized it before he placed it on the table. Howard kept his cufflinks inside. I'd given the box to James 2 days earlier. I had left it on his porch after our telephone call. He pushed it toward me. "What is this, you know? Why are you returning it?" "Alyssa thinks we should wait." "For what?" "Until things settle down. The cufflinks didn't do anything. This isn't about them." He sat across from me. "She came here today, I know. Did she call you?" "She told me how it went. I'd like to hear your version." "She tried to make peace. You accused her of using you. She said you want me at the wedding." "I do." I asked what she wanted. He looked at the wooden box. "She's under pressure." "That isn't an answer. She wants everyone to get along." "No, she wants everyone to agree." He rubbed his palms against his trousers. "Can we make it through the next few weeks?" "Make it through how? No arguments, no calls to relatives, no extra messages to the venue unless it's about payment. I'm the client. Caleb knows that. Does Alyssa?" "Mom." I waited. He reached into his pocket and placed the spare key to his house on the table. The white ribbon was still tied around the ring. I looked at it. "What are you doing?" "Alyssa doesn't feel comfortable with people having keys right now. People, you know what I mean." "No, I want to hear it." "She wants the key back. I used it when you asked me to wait for a delivery." "I know. I've never entered your house without permission." "I know. Do you want it back?" He looked miserable. "That would be best for now." The kitchen seemed larger after he said it. I untied their key from my ring. The white ribbon caught against the metal. I worked it loose and placed the key in his hand. He closed his fingers around it. "Thank you." I picked up the wooden box. "Take your father's cufflinks. I don't want this to feel transactional. It already does. That's not what I meant. You returned something that belonged to your father while asking for access to my money. I didn't ask about money. You asked me to stop contacting the place where my money is going." He pushed his chair back. "I came here because I thought we could lower the temperature. You took away my key. It's temporary. Then why bring the cufflinks?" He stared at the floor. "Alyssa said if I wore them, people might think everything was fine." I held the wooden box against my palm. "Is everything fine?" "No." "Then perhaps the cufflinks would be the only honest part." He looked up. I opened the box. The silver squares rested on blue velvet. Howard had polished them before every wedding, even when nobody would see them under his jacket sleeves. I set the box in front of James. "Wear them because he was your father. Don't wear them as proof that I approved of anything." James touched one cufflink with his finger. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Answer one question." He waited. "When you came here, did you already know you were taking the key?" "Yes." "Did you already know you were returning the cufflinks?" "Yes." "Did you still expect me to pay the reception balance?" His face went still. "Yes." I nodded. That was the true size of it. He could reduce my access to his home. He could ask me to stop speaking to the venue. He could bring back Howard's cufflinks because my feelings might interfere with a photograph. But the $36,000 still had a place. I walked to the front door and opened it. James stood slowly. "Mom, you have your key." "I don't want to leave like this." "How do you want to leave?" "I don't know. That's what you keep asking me to solve." He picked up the wooden box. At the door, he turned. "Are you coming to the wedding?" "Yes." "Are you paying the balance?" "I will meet the obligations I choose after I understand them." "What does that mean?" "It means I won't answer that question again tonight." His grip tightened around the box. "Alyssa will panic. Alyssa took my key. It's our house." "Yes, it is." He waited for me to argue. I didn't. When he left, I locked the front door. Then I stood in the hallway and looked at the empty hook where their ribboned key had hung. I had mistaken access for belonging. The key let me wait for deliveries. It let me water plants when they traveled. It let me bring groceries inside without waking them. It hadn't given me a voice in their home. It had given them another way to reach mine. I went to Howard's desk and opened the cream notebook. For weeks, I had been trying to recover a toast, a seat, and a place in an introduction. I had treated each small correction as proof that I still mattered. My name had been added only after money stopped moving quietly. That was no longer enough. I crossed out the question I'd written earlier. What exactly am I paying for? Below it, I wrote another. What am I consenting to? The next morning, I called Caleb. I need a complete copy of everything attached to my agreement. I can prepare that. Not just the final event order. Every page, certainly. I also need the payment procedure for the wedding day. The remaining balance must be received before reception service begins. Can I bring it in person? Yes, we can accept a cashier's check at the welcome desk. Who confirms receipt? I do. And when does service officially begin? There was a short pause. Why are you asking? Because I'm done treating $36,000 like a family favor. Caleb said he would send the full file that afternoon. I gave him no explanation. At 3:20, the email arrived. The attachment contained the executed contract, the approved order, the entrance plan, and 12 pages of standard terms. I printed all of it. Then I cleared Howard's desk, sharpened a pencil, and began reading from the first line. The first 6 pages matched what I remembered. Guest count, meal service, bar schedule, equipment, payment. The standard terms began on page 7. Most were ordinary. The hall wasn't responsible for belongings left overnight. Open flames required approved containers. Damaged equipment would be charged to the client. I underlined every use of that word. Client, not mother, not host, not family. Client. On page 9, I found a line saying all instructions affecting cost had to come from the client or an authorized representative. I hadn't authorized anyone. The next sentence said informal discussions with event participants did not change the agreement. I read that twice. A cancellation section began lower on the page. It used terms I didn't understand well enough to trust my first reading. I marked the corner with a small pencil line and kept going. Near the end, I found the payment procedure Caleb had described. The balance could be delivered before service on the event date if arranged in advance. That mattered. I wasn't required to give the check to James. I wasn't required to send it early. I could place it directly in Caleb's hand. I opened a blank document on my computer. I wrote 3 short instructions. No new charge would be approved through James or Alyssa. No vendor should treat either of them as my financial representative. The final payment would be delivered by me to Caleb before reception service. I read the page aloud. It sounded cold. Then I thought about the white ribbon on the key James had taken from my table. I left the words as they were. I emailed the instructions to Caleb. I copied James and Alyssa. Caleb replied first. Received. I have added these directions to the event file. James called less than 5 minutes later. What is this email? Payment instructions. Why did you copy us? So everyone has the same information. Alyssa thinks you're setting up some kind of trap. What trap? She doesn't know. Neither do I. You're delivering the check on the wedding day? That's allowed. We expected it before then. Why? So we know it's handled. It will be handled according to the contract. He lowered his voice. You never talked like this before. I never needed to. You're scaring her. She took my house key back through you. That has nothing to do with the payment. Exactly. He was quiet. I continued. My access to your home was treated as personal. My money will be treated as financial. That should make everyone more comfortable. It doesn't. Why not? Because it sounds like you might change your mind. I said I would follow the agreement. Can you just send the check next week? No. Why? Because the balance isn't due next week. This is about trust again. No, it's about a due date. He exhaled into the phone. I have a meeting. Then go. Mom, please don't do anything without telling me. I looked at the contract. I just told you exactly what I'm doing. After the call, I made another note in the cream notebook. Payment to Caleb. No representatives. Then I put the notebook aside and went outside. The gutters over my back porch needed cleaning. Howard used to do them every spring. Since his death, I'd paid a man twice. That year, I decided to handle the low section myself. I carried out the small ladder. I wore gloves and kept both feet below the warning label. The work was unpleasant. Wet leaves had packed into the corner near the downspout. I pulled them out by hand and dropped them into a bucket. Halfway through, my phone rang inside. I let it ring. When I finished, water ran through the downspout without spilling over the edge. My shoulders hurt. There was dirt on my sleeve. I felt better than I had after any wedding meeting. The missed call was from Alyssa. She left a message. "Mary, I need you to call me. This payment email is completely unnecessary and we need to clear it up before it creates more confusion." I didn't call. I sent a message instead. "If you have a cost request, send it through Caleb." She replied immediately. "This is a family matter," I wrote back. "The payment is not." She didn't respond. The next morning, Caleb called. "I have a change request," he said. "From Alyssa?" "Yes." "She wants to restore the upgraded linens." I declined them. "She's proposing to offset the cost by reducing the floral installation time." "Is the floral work under my agreement?" "No, that's a separate vendor." "Then how does reducing it change your bill?" "It doesn't." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "So there's no offset?" "Not within our contract." "Did you tell her that?" "Yes." "What did she say?" "That you had approved the overall wedding budget and should be comfortable with substitutions." "I'm not. I assumed that was your position." I still needed to ask. "Thank you." "Would you like me to decline the request?" "Yes." He tapped his pen once. I could hear it through the phone. "I'll confirm by email." Before noon, he sent a message to all three of us. "The premium linen request has not been approved by the contracting client. Standard linens remain confirmed. No additional charges or substitutions will be accepted without Mary Watson's direct written consent." That was the first time my new boundary produced a visible result. The charge stopped before it reached me. Alyssa called James. I knew because he called me right after. "You made Caleb reject the linens again." I declined them again. She was trying to pay for them by cutting something else. Something else that wasn't on my bill. She didn't understand that. She does now. You could have talked to her first. She didn't talk to me before asking Caleb. She knew what you'd say. Then she saved us both time. James was silent. I heard him close a door. "Do you realize how this looks?" "To whom?" "The venue. They see a client reviewing charges. They see a family fighting." "Then stop sending charges we already discussed." He lowered his voice. "You're enjoying having control." "No. It sounds like you are." "What would enjoyment sound like?" "I don't know. Neither do I, because this isn't enjoyable." He breathed slowly. "Alyssa says she can't plan with you watching every move. I'm watching my invoice. It's all connected. Only because she keeps connecting it." He said he had to go. That afternoon, the wedding group email arrived. Alyssa had sent it to relatives involved in the ceremony and reception introduction. Linda was included. So was I. "Final weeks are here," the message began. "To reduce stress and protect the couple's peace, all planning communication should come directly through Alyssa. Please do not contact Prairie Glass Hall or make independent arrangements." The next paragraph listed tasks. Alyssa's mother would confirm the family gathering group. Her sister would handle personal items. James would manage remaining payments. I read that last line again. James would manage remaining payments. I replied only to Alyssa, James, and Caleb. "James is not my financial representative. The payment directions in the event file remain unchanged." Caleb answered, "Confirmed." Alyssa sent no reply. An hour later, Linda called. "I saw the email." "So did I." "James is managing the payment?" "No." "Then why did she write that?" "You'll have to ask her." Linda lowered her voice, though there was nobody with me to overhear. "People are starting to notice." "What are they noticing?" "That every time you correct something, Alyssa sends another set of instructions." I carried the phone to the living room. "Are they saying that to you?" "Two people asked me whether you were still attending." "What did you tell them?" "That I assumed you were." "You don't have to answer for me, I know. I'm telling them to ask James." That was useful. The questions were reaching the person who had allowed the answers to stay vague. At 6, James sent a message. Please stop replying to group emails about the contract. I called him. You told people you managed the payment. I didn't write that. Did you tell Alyssa to correct it? She meant I'd make sure everything was ready. You don't have authority over my payment. I know that. Does she? Yes. Then why write it? He sounded exhausted. Because she's trying to keep the wedding organized. With a false statement. Nobody cares who physically hands over a check. I care. That's what I mean. You're turning every word into a fight. I corrected one sentence. In front of Caleb, he keeps the contract, and Aunt Linda. She received the false statement. He stopped talking. I could hear Alyssa in the background. Her voice was low and quick. James said, I need to go. Before you do, tell me whether I'm still expected at the family gathering. Yes. At the time listed? Yes. Through the main entrance. He hesitated. Alyssa said she'll meet you. That isn't what I asked. You're still doing it. Doing what? Looking for a problem. I stood beside the front window. Evening light stretched across the floor. I'm looking for an answer. You'll get in, Mom. The phrase was so careless that I almost missed it. Not you'll be with us. Not you belong there. You'll get in. I ended the call. 2 days later, an overnight envelope arrived from Prairie Glass Hall. It contained the final printed event order and a clean copy of the payment instructions. Caleb had attached a note. Keep this copy with you when you deliver the balance. I placed the documents in the blue folder. Then I went to my bank and arranged for a cashier's check for $36,000. I didn't pick it up. I scheduled it for the morning before the wedding. The bank employee gave me a confirmation slip. I folded it into my wallet. When I returned home, Alyssa's car was parked outside. She stood on my porch holding the group email. I unlocked the door but remained outside with her. What do you need? I need you to stop undermining us. I corrected the payment line. You corrected me in front of the venue. You were wrong in front of the venue. She held the paper against her side. James and I have decided the balance needs to be delivered before the wedding day. No. Her face went still. No? The contract allows delivery before service. We need certainty. You have Caleb's confirmation. We need the check. You don't. This is our reception. It's my payment. She stepped closer. If you won't give the check to James next week, we'll have to assume you're planning to withhold it. Assume what you like. People will ask why. Tell them the payment isn't due. You really want everyone discussing this? You started that discussion. Her eyes narrowed. Fine. Then from now on, every family question comes to me. That has been your arrangement for weeks. I'm serious, Mary. So am I. She turned toward the driveway, then stopped. If you want to be treated like a client, don't expect special treatment as family. I watched her walk to her car. Before she opened the door, I said, those were never supposed to be opposite choices. She drove away without answering. That night, James sent a new family schedule. My name was still on the introduction list. The gathering location beside it had been left blank. I called James. Why is the location missing? Alyssa's updating it. From what? The family schedule. Why? She thinks it's better if you arrive with the regular guests. I sat down. You told me yesterday I was still with the family group. I know. What changed overnight? The payment situation. There it was, spoken plainly. What does my arrival have to do with the payment? Alyssa doesn't want uncertainty around the family gathering. That means nothing. She thinks you might create a scene. By doing what? I don't know. Carrying a check? Mom, stop. No, you tell me what scene you think I'm planning. He became quiet. I could hear a television behind him. Finally, he said, you keep contacting the venue. You make corrections in group emails. You won't give us the check early. None of that happens at a family gathering. It shows where your head is. My head is attached to the name on the contract. This is exactly what she means. I looked at the blank line beside my name. So, unless I give you $36,000 early, I don't enter with family. I didn't say that. You said the payment situation changed the schedule. She needs to know the day will be calm. Then why is she creating another conflict? She isn't. Who removed the location? He didn't answer. I waited. Alyssa did, he said. And you sent it. Yes. Did you object? I told her this would upset you. That's not an objection. What do you want me to do? Refuse to send the schedule? Yes. He sounded startled. It had to go out. You could have said your mother's place doesn't depend on handing over a check. You're making that connection. You just made it. No, I said. The uncertainty is stressing her. The only uncertainty is whether you'll stand up to her. His voice hardened. You don't see what she deals with every day? What does she deal with? You. I didn't speak. He continued before he could stop himself. Every detail becomes a question. Every change becomes a challenge. She can't enjoy her own wedding. I held the phone away from my ear for a second. Then I brought it back. Do you agree that I should arrive as a regular guest? He took a long breath. For now, yes. For now? If things calm down, we can revisit it. Meaning, if I give you the check. I'm not doing this. You already did. He ended the call. A minute later, a group message arrived from Alyssa. To simplify arrival, Mary has chosen to join the reception with general guests rather than participate in the family gathering. We appreciate everyone respecting her decision. I read it standing in my kitchen. My own name looked strange inside the lie. Linda called before I could put the phone down. Did you choose that? No, I didn't think so. Don't reply. Why not? Because she wants the argument. So you're letting that stand? For tonight. Linda was silent. Then she said, James is in the group. I know. He saw it. I know. Mary, I'm sorry. I walked to the sink and turned off a dripping faucet. What are people saying? Nothing yet. That was worse in its own way. Silence looked like agreement. A few minutes later, one relative replied with a folded hands symbol. Another wrote, whatever keeps the day peaceful. Nobody asked me. I opened the message box and typed, this was not my decision. My thumb rested over send. If I posted it, the family group would split into questions. People would ask about the arrival plan. Someone would mention the payment. Alyssa would say I'd chosen a public fight before the wedding. I erased the words. I'm not answering tonight, I told Linda. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. That was true. After we hung up, I went upstairs and opened my closet. The dress I'd chosen for the wedding hung inside a cloth bag. It was soft blue with sleeves to the elbow. Alyssa had approved it months earlier. She used that word, approved. I took the dress out and held it against myself in the mirror. For weeks, I'd pictured standing near James while the photographer arranged the family. I'd imagined Howard's cufflinks at his wrists. I'd planned to touch James's shoulder before he entered the ballroom. Now I didn't know where I was supposed to stand. I put the dress back in its bag. The next morning, Alyssa called at 7:30. I wanted to make sure you saw the schedule. I saw it. I hope you understand. I understand that you lied to the family group. She inhaled. I did not lie. You said I chose regular guest arrival. You made it impossible to include you in the family gathering. How? You won't reassure us about the payment. I arranged the cashier's check, but you won't give it to James. It isn't his. It's for his wedding. It's payable to Prairie Glass Hall. She spoke slowly. We cannot spend our wedding day wondering whether you'll show up with it. You created that worry yourself. You created it when you sent that formal email. I confirmed the contract terms. You wanted us to know you had power. No, I wanted you to stop pretending James managed my payment. She lowered her voice. This can all go away. How? Give James the check next Friday. I'll restore your family arrival. We'll tell everyone the schedule changed. I stared at the refrigerator. There was the offer. Money first, family second. You're asking me to buy back a place you already said was mine. That is not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying. I'm trying to give you a path forward. My path to where? The family gathering. I almost admired how clearly she'd arranged it. Send that offer in writing. What? Email me what you just said. I'm not doing that. Why not? Because you'll twist it. I won't need to. Her voice became sharper. If you insist on treating us like strangers, don't complain when the wedding reflects that. You came to my house with muffins and said you wanted peace. I did. You wanted the check. I wanted trust. Trust doesn't need a cashier's check. She hung up. At 9, James sent me a private message. Please just give me the envelope early. I'll make sure you're with us. I took a screenshot. Then I replied. I won't exchange payment for family treatment. He wrote back. That's not what this is. I didn't answer. By lunch, Alyssa had changed her social media post. The old caption disappeared. The new one said, sometimes protecting your marriage means accepting that not everyone will celebrate you without conditions. There was a photograph of her and James standing in front of Prairie Glass Hall. James had shared it. That cost me more than the first post. Alyssa could call me controlling and remain predictable. James had now put his name beside the version where they needed protection from me. Linda sent the screenshot but didn't call. I appreciated that. That afternoon, I went to the grocery store. 2 people I knew from Cedar Street were near the produce section. One of them asked whether I was excited about the wedding. Yes, I said. Then she touched my arm. I'm sure everything will work out. Nobody says that unless they've heard something is wrong. I smiled, thanked her, and bought potatoes I didn't need. At home, I left the grocery bag on the counter and sat in my car for several minutes. I could correct the public version. I had the emails. I had Caleb's confirmation. I had James asking for the envelope in exchange for fixing my place, but posting those messages would expose the entire argument. I would be right. I would also become part of the public mess. I chose not to do it. That choice had a price. For the next week, some relatives stopped calling. Others sent careful messages about forgiveness and stress. Nobody asked to see the event order. James didn't correct his shared post. The evening before the cashier's check was scheduled, he came to Cedar Street. He stayed on the porch. I need an answer, he said. About what? Will you give me the check tomorrow? No. Alyssa says if you don't, we have to plan as if it isn't coming. That's your choice. Can I at least see the bank confirmation? No. His face flushed. Why are you doing this? I'm following the agreement. You're punishing us. What punishment? You know we can't relax. I haven't been allowed to relax for weeks. He stepped closer to the door. This is bigger than a seat now. Yes. I don't know who you are lately. I'm the same person who signed the contract. You just stopped hearing me when I said no. He looked through the doorway toward the kitchen. Dad would hate this. The words hit hard enough that I gripped the edge of the door. Don't use your father. He wanted us to be a family. He also paid his own bills. That's not fair. Neither is bringing a dead man to my porch because the living woman won't hand you a check. James looked away. When he spoke again, his voice was low. If you don't give it to me tomorrow, Alyssa doesn't want you in the family photographs. Do you? He pressed his lips together. I want my wedding day to be peaceful. That's not an answer. It's the answer I have. I nodded. Then keep it. I closed the door. My hand shook afterward. I sat on the bottom stair until it stopped. That was the real loss. Not the introduction, not the photograph. I'd kept thinking James was trapped between us. I'd treated his silence like weakness. It was a choice. He chose whatever reduced pressure on him, even when it placed the cost on me. I went to Howard's desk and opened the contract again. This time, I began with page 9. The cancellation section had 3 parts. The first dealt with cancellations weeks before an event. The second covered changes after goods had been ordered. The last part referred to services not yet provided. I read it slowly. The contracting client could end unserved reception services before service began. The hall would retain the deposit. Any replacement arrangement would be separate from the original agreement. I didn't know what that meant in practice. Maybe it applied only to emergencies. Maybe the hall could refuse. Maybe James and Alyssa would lose the reception entirely. I wasn't going to guess. I wrote 3 questions on a sheet of paper. Can I end the agreement before service begins? Do I lose the $12,000 deposit? Can James and Alyssa keep the reception without my contract? I looked at the first question for a long time. $12,000 was not a symbolic loss. It was money Howard and I had saved by driving cars until the doors rusted and packing lunches for work. If the clause meant what it seemed to mean, using it would cost me every dollar of the deposit. Not using it might cost more than money. I called Caleb. I need a private meeting about page 9. He didn't ask why. Can you come tomorrow at 10? Yes. Bring your executed copy. I will. After the call, I went online and canceled the cashier's check pickup. I didn't cancel the payment itself. I rescheduled it for the wedding morning, exactly as the contract allowed. The bank warned that the funds would remain reserved. I accepted the notice. Then I placed the 3 questions inside the blue folder and wrote $12,000 across the top of the page. At 10 the next morning, Caleb was waiting in his office. I placed my copy of the contract beside his. I need plain answers. That's what I'll give you. I opened to page 9. This says I can end unserved reception services before service begins. Yes. Does that include the wedding day? Yes. Up until when? Until we begin providing the reception. What counts as providing it? He tapped the service timeline. The ballroom doors open. Guests enter. Food or bar service begins. Once any contracted reception service starts, that section no longer applies. So the ceremony has nothing to do with it. Correct. We aren't hosting the ceremony. I pointed to the deposit line. If I end the services, what happens to the $12,000? The hall keeps it. All of it? All of it. And the remaining $36,000? You would no longer owe it. I sat back. That sounds too simple. It's a standard provision. We reserve staff, food, and the room. The deposit covers part of our loss if a client cancels. What happens to the reception? Your agreement ends. Could James and Alyssa keep it? They could ask for a replacement agreement. Under their names? Yes. Would they owe the balance? They would have to fund the replacement themselves before we opened the ballroom. How much? The remaining $36,000. Not another deposit. Not at that stage. The original deposit would remain with the hall and be credited against costs already committed. The replacement clients would assume the unpaid amount and full responsibility for the event. I looked through the glass panel in his office door. The ballroom was empty that morning. What if they can't pay? Then we don't provide the reception. How long would you give them to decide? Caleb folded his hands. If this happened on the event date, we could hold the room for 30 minutes. After that, food timing and staffing become difficult. And the guests? They would remain in the lobby or outside until there was an active agreement. I wrote the answer beside my third question. 30 minutes. Caleb watched me. Mrs. Watson, are you planning to cancel? I haven't decided. If you know now, earlier notice would make operations easier. Would it make things easier for James and Alyssa? It would give them more time to arrange payment. That was the easy choice. I could end the agreement that afternoon. I could let panic travel through their house for the remaining days. I could send Linda the screenshots and make sure everyone understood why. Alyssa would lose the control she'd been protecting. James would finally have to react. It would also mean I had decided the ending before asking my son one last clear question. I'm not canceling today, I said. Caleb nodded. If you do make that decision, I'll need your identification and written instruction. Would my contract copy be enough? With identification, yes. I would confirm that service hasn't begun, then process the cancellation. Would you need permission from the couple? No. They aren't parties to your agreement. Would you warn them that I asked? No. You're the client. This meeting concerns your contract. I closed the folder. Please don't change the timeline or delay service because of this conversation. I won't. If I bring the balance, you process it normally. Yes. And if I make the other choice, I execute the provision, nothing more. He wasn't offering revenge. He wasn't taking my side. He was telling me what the paper allowed. That made the decision mine. At the welcome desk, Caleb stopped me. "One more thing," I turned. "If you cancel on the wedding day, you should understand that the relationship may not recover." "I understand. I'm not advising you either way." "I know." Outside, I sat in my car with the blue folder on the passenger seat. $12,000 was the financial price. James was the other price. I could lose the deposit and still sleep in my own house. Losing my son, even a son who had taken back a key and traded my place for a check, was different. I drove home without stopping at the cemetery. That evening, I called James and asked him to come over alone. He arrived at 7. He looked around the kitchen before sitting, as if he expected papers on the table. There were none. "I don't want another contract meeting," he said. "This isn't one." "What's going on?" I placed a glass of water in front of him. "I need you to answer one question without asking Alyssa first." He looked cautious. "All right. Will I be treated as your mother at your wedding?" His shoulders dropped. "Of course. What does that mean?" "You'll be there with us." "Where?" "At the ceremony. At the reception. That describes 2 buildings." He rubbed his forehead. "Mom, what are you asking? Am I family only if I give you the check early?" "No." "Then why was I removed from the family gathering?" "Alyssa is stressed. That doesn't answer the question. She feels like you don't support her. Do you believe I don't support you?" He looked at the table. "I believe you're hurt." "That wasn't my question." "No, I don't believe that." "Then put me back where I was promised." He took a drink of water. "You're still on the introduction list. The location is blank. We'll fix it." "When?" "Before the wedding." "Who will fix it?" "I will." I waited. He added, "I'll speak to Alyssa tonight. Ask her which entrance I'm expected to use." He looked surprised. "The main entrance?" "Ask her. Why would it be anything else?" "Because she told Caleb she would handle my arrival personally. Because the schedule gives everyone else a location. You're reading too much into it. That's what you said about the tasting. This isn't the tasting." "No. It's the last chance I'm giving you to check." He stared at me. "Last chance for what?" "To know what you're agreeing to." His face tightened. There it is again. "What?" That tone, like something is going to happen. Something has already happened, James. "I said you're my mother. You've said many things in this kitchen." He stood and walked to the sink. He looked out the window for a moment. Then he turned. "I'll make sure you come in with family." "How?" "I'll tell Alyssa. And if she disagrees?" "She won't." "You haven't asked." "I know her." I didn't point out how often he'd use that confidence to avoid a conversation. He returned to the table. "Can you please bring the balance?" "Yes." His whole body relaxed. "The full 36? "Yes." "When will you get the check?" "The morning of the wedding." "Can I pick it up?" "No. I'll handle it at the venue." His shoulders rose again. "Why?" "Because that's what the agreement allows." "Can I at least tell Alyssa it's arranged?" "You can tell her I said I'd bring the balance." "Thank you." I studied his face. He thought the difficult part was over. "James." "What?" "Look into the entrance plan." "I will." "Don't tell me what you assume." "Ask her." "All right." He left 20 minutes later. The next morning, he sent one message. "Alyssa says it's handled. Please trust me," I wrote back. "What entrance?" He didn't answer for 3 hours. Then he replied, "She'll direct everyone after the ceremony. It's fine." He had avoided the question again. I didn't ask a 4th time. For the remaining days, I kept my routine. I bought groceries, I washed my car, I took the blue dress to be pressed. I didn't answer comments under Alyssa's post. I didn't send screenshots to the family group. When Linda asked whether the arrival plan had been fixed, I told her James said it had been handled. "That's not what I asked," she said. "I know. Are you going?" "Yes." "Do you want me to stay near you?" "No. Follow the instructions you were given." She was quiet. "Mary, that worries me. Don't borrow trouble before it arrives." The day before the wedding, Caleb called. "I'm confirming tomorrow's payment arrangement. I'll bring the cashier's check. Please come to the welcome desk before service." "I will." "Do you need anything else from me?" "No." He paused. "Have you made a decision about page 9? I'll make it before the ballroom opens. That's within your right. Is the 30-minute replacement period still possible?" "Yes." "Thank you." I spent that evening at home. The blue dress hung from my bedroom door. My shoes waited beneath it. On the dresser, I placed the invitation, my identification, and the blue folder. I took out the cream notebook. The toast was still inside. I didn't tear it up. I placed it back in Howard's desk. If somebody handed me a microphone at the reception, I wouldn't speak. I wasn't going to accept an improvised place after being denied a promised one. Before bed, I checked the folder one last time. Executed contract, final event order, entrance plan, payment instructions, bank confirmation. The 3 questions from my meeting with Caleb. Across the top of that page, my own handwriting said $12,000. I slept badly but didn't get out of bed. On the wedding morning, I dressed slowly. I fastened small silver earrings Howard had given me on our 30th anniversary. Then I drove to the bank. The cashier's check was ready. It was payable to Prairie Glass Hall for $36,000. I placed it in a plain white envelope. I didn't seal it. The contract went into my handbag beside it. At the church, an usher seated me in the 3rd row. Alyssa's parents sat in the 1st. Nobody explained the arrangement. Linda turned from the row ahead and squeezed my hand. I watched James enter wearing Howard's cufflinks. He looked toward me once before Alyssa came down the aisle. The ceremony was simple. They said their vows. James's voice shook on the first sentence and steadied on the second. When it ended, everyone stood. I waited until the family photographs were finished. Nobody called my name. James saw me near the side aisle. He lifted one finger as if asking for another minute. Alyssa touched his arm and guided him toward the church doors. I walked to my car alone. The blue folder and the payment envelope rested together on the passenger seat. Then I followed the line of cars toward Prairie Glass Hall. The parking lot was already half full. People stood near the main entrance in small groups. Some had come directly from the church. Others were taking coats from their cars. Linda waved when she saw me. I parked near the end of the 1st row. Before getting out, I checked my handbag. The envelope was there. So was the blue folder. I walked toward the building. James and Alyssa were near the main doors with her parents and sister. The photographer was arranging them beneath the Prairie Glass Hall sign. Alyssa saw me but didn't wave. James did. "Mom, give us a minute." I stopped beside Linda. She looked at my handbag. "Are you all right?" "Yes." "Do you know where we're supposed to gather?" "The schedule says the main entrance." "It says that for me," she said. "Your line was blank." "I know." A staff member opened one of the glass doors. Several relatives went into the lobby. The ballroom doors beyond the welcome desk remained closed. Caleb stood behind the desk, checking names. I could have walked inside as a guest. I didn't. Alyssa finished the photographs and turned toward the entrance. James followed her. I stepped closer. "Alyssa." She kept moving. "What?" "Which entrance should I use for the reception procession?" People were close enough to hear. Linda stood beside me. Alyssa's parents were only a few feet away. Alyssa looked toward the main doors. Then she looked past me, toward the narrow service drive. The staff gate. I thought I might have misunderstood. The gray gate beside the building? Yes. Why? The front entrance is for the wedding party and honored family. James stood beside her. He heard every word. Alyssa adjusted the front of her dress. "You said you didn't want extra attention." "I never said that. We're not doing this here." I asked where to enter, and I answered. Linda moved closer to me. "Why would Mary use the staff gate?" Alyssa gave her a strained smile. "It's only an entrance. She'll come through with the service group before introductions." "I'm not part of the service group," I said. "Nobody said you were. You just directed me to their gate. It avoids confusion." I looked at James. "Is this what you agreed to?" His face had gone pale. He glanced at the people around us, then at Alyssa. He said nothing. I waited. James? He lowered his eyes. That was his answer. Alyssa touched his arm. We're already late. She turned toward the main doors. I didn't follow her. I walked toward the welcome desk outside the glass entry wall. Caleb had stepped out to speak with a delivery driver. When he saw me, he excused himself and came over. Mrs. Watson. Has reception service begun? No. Are the ballroom doors still closed? Yes. Has food or bar service started? No. I opened my handbag and removed the blue folder. Caleb looked at it, then at me. Are you making your decision? Yes. Behind us, guests continued entering the lobby. The glass doors opened and closed. I could hear laughter inside. I handed him the contract. I'm ending all unserved reception services under the cancellation provision on page 9. He didn't react beyond one slow breath. May I see your identification? I gave him my driver's license. He compared the name and photograph. Then he opened the contract to the signature page. You understand the $12,000 deposit is forfeited. I understand. You understand this ends your agreement. Yes. The remaining balance will not be due from you. I understand. He looked directly at me. Is this your final instruction? It is. Caleb checked his watch. Then he used the radio on his belt. Hold ballroom service. Do not open the doors. A voice answered. Confirmed. Several people inside the lobby turned toward the ballroom. Caleb brought a one-page form from the welcome desk. It repeated the contract section and the time. I read it. I signed my name. He signed beneath mine. Then he returned my identification. Your agreement is canceled. I placed the payment envelope back in my handbag. Alyssa had stopped just inside the main doors. James stood beside her. Both were watching. Caleb opened the main door and held it for me. This way, Mrs. Watson. I walked through. Alyssa stepped toward us. What is she doing? Caleb remained calm. I need to speak with you and James privately. About what? Your reception agreement. Our reception agreement is with her. It was. Alyssa looked at me. What did you do? I didn't answer for Caleb. He gestured toward a small seating area beside the welcome desk. Please come with me. James stared at the envelope in my handbag. Mom, did you bring the check? Yes. His eyes moved to the blue folder. Then what's happening? I made a decision under my contract. Alyssa turned to Caleb. Open the ballroom. People are waiting. I can't do that without an active agreement. What do you mean? Active. Caleb kept his voice low, but the lobby had become quiet. Anyone nearby could hear. Mrs. Watson ended her contract before reception service began. Alyssa looked as though the words had arrived in the wrong order. She can't do that. She was the contracting client. No. This is our wedding. Yes. The canceled agreement was in her name. James stepped closer to me. Why would you cancel? I looked at him. You heard her send me to the staff gate. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Alyssa shook her head. This is insane. It was an entrance. It was the entrance you assigned me. You asked a question while I was trying to manage photographs, and you answered it. I was stressed. You were clear. She reached toward the folder. Undo it. I moved the folder behind my arm. No. You cannot take away our reception over a door. I canceled an agreement in my name. You promised to pay. I came prepared to pay. James looked at my handbag again. Then pay. We'll fix the entrance. I held his eyes. The time to fix it was when I asked you. I didn't know she was going to say that. I told you to ask her. I thought it was handled. You chose not to know. Alyssa stepped between us. Give Caleb the check. No. Her voice rose. People are standing here. They were standing here when you directed me away from them. That has nothing to do with the reception contract. It has everything to do with whether I consent to fund it. Caleb lifted one hand. We need to discuss your options. Alyssa turned on him. Our option is that she changes her mind. The cancellation has been processed. Then reverse it. I can't restore a canceled agreement without the former client's written consent. Fine. Give her the paper. I won't sign it, I said. Alyssa's face tightened. James looked from me to Caleb. What happens now? You and Alyssa can sign a replacement agreement. James blinked. For the same reception? For the services currently prepared, yes. What does that require? You assume responsibility for the remaining balance in the event? How much? $36,000. The number changed his face. Until that moment, I don't think he had believed the money was truly separate from me. He believed the check would appear because I was his mother. Caleb continued. We can hold the ballroom for 30 minutes while you decide and arrange payment. Alyssa stared at him. 30 minutes? Food service is timed. Staff are waiting. We need an active agreement before opening the doors. What happens after 30 minutes? We begin suspending the reception. A murmur moved through the lobby. The ballroom doors stayed closed. Alyssa looked around and noticed everyone watching. She lowered her voice. Can we go into your office? Yes. No, James said. We all looked at him. He stood very still. People already know something is wrong. Alyssa grabbed his hand. Then we need to fix it. With what money? He asked. Our savings. You said we needed that. We need the reception. Caleb spoke calmly. You have 28 minutes. Alyssa turned to me again. Mary, please. It was the first time she had used that tone with me. Not anger, not polished sympathy, fear. You can stop this. I already stopped my part. You're humiliating us. I didn't tell the guests anything. You made sure they could see. I used the welcome desk. That's where the contract is handled. James looked toward the ballroom doors. Several guests had gathered near them. Linda stood a few feet away, saying nothing. Alyssa's mother approached. Why aren't the doors opening? Alyssa's mouth moved, but no sound came. James answered. We don't have an active reception agreement. Her mother frowned. What happened to Mary's contract? James looked at me. Then he looked at Alyssa. It was canceled. Why? Alyssa spoke quickly. There was a disagreement. About what? The entrance plan. Her mother stared at her. What entrance plan? Alyssa looked toward the main doors. I could see her choosing between the truth and another edited version. James answered first. Alyssa told Mom to use the staff gate. The lobby went completely quiet around us. Alyssa turned toward him. You didn't have to say it like that. How else should I say it? You could explain the confusion. There wasn't confusion. His voice was low but steady. I heard you. That was the first time he said it where anyone else could hear. Alyssa's mother looked at me. Mary, is that true? Yes. She closed her eyes for a second. Then she looked at her daughter. Why would you do that? Alyssa folded her arms. I was managing the procession. Mary has challenged every decision for weeks. That doesn't make her staff. I didn't say she was staff. You sent her to their gate. Caleb checked the time. 24 minutes. Alyssa's mother lowered her voice. You need to decide what you're doing. Alyssa looked at James. He seemed different now. Not stronger yet, just unable to hide behind not knowing. He turned to Caleb. If we sign, can the reception continue as planned? Yes, once the balance is funded. Can we pay from 2 accounts? Yes. Alyssa gripped his sleeve. James, wait. We don't have time. We should talk privately. We've been talking privately for months. She let go of him. He looked at me. Did you know we could replace the contract? Yes. You knew we'd have to pay? Yes. And you still brought the check? Yes. Were you going to pay if this didn't happen? I touched the envelope through my handbag. I came ready to. His eyes filled, but he looked away before anything fell. Caleb placed the replacement agreement on the welcome desk. James read the first page. Alyssa stood beside him, breathing quickly. The ballroom doors remained closed. Guests moved back to give them room. Caleb set a pen between them. You have 21 minutes. James picked it up. For the first time since the wedding planning began, the name waiting on the payment line was his. Alyssa placed her hand over the agreement. Wait. James kept the pen. What? We need to know exactly what we're signing. Caleb turned the pages toward them. The services are the same. You become the clients. You assume the remaining balance and responsibility for the reception. Can we change anything? Not without delaying service. Alyssa looked toward the guests. Then no. James signed the first line. She stared at his name. You just signed without me. I signed for myself. We're supposed to decide together. We have 20 minutes. Caleb corrected him. 19. Alyssa took the pen. She read more carefully than James had. When she reached the payment page, her hand stopped. This empties most of our house savings. James didn't answer. She whispered, Say something. We built this reception. Your mother offered to pay for it. My mother canceled her agreement because she wanted to punish me. James looked toward me. I didn't move. Then he turned back to Alyssa. She gave me chances to fix it. You're taking her side now? I'm looking at the ballroom doors. That isn't an answer. No, it's a bill. Alyssa's mother touched her shoulder. Sign it or tell everyone there's no reception. Alyssa pulled away from her. You're not helping. I'm not paying it either. That ended the discussion. Alyssa signed. Caleb took the agreement and checked each page. Now we need the funds. James opened his banking app. Alyssa opened hers. They stood side by side at the welcome desk, moving money from their savings. The wireless signal dropped once. James had to enter a security code twice. Nobody spoke to them. I stood near the main doors with Linda. You lost the deposit? She asked quietly. Yes. All 12,000? Yes. She looked at the ballroom. That's a lot of money. I know. Are you all right? Not yet. She nodded. At the desk, Alyssa's transfer went through first. James's bank placed a temporary hold on his. Caleb checked the time. 11 minutes. James called the number on the back of his bank card. He gave his name, date of birth, and the transfer amount. Alyssa paced beside him. Tell them it's urgent. They heard me. Give me the phone. It's my account. She stopped pacing. That was another new thing for them. Separate responsibility had entered the room. James answered several security questions. Then he waited. People in the lobby began sitting along the wall. Someone asked whether they should leave. James covered the phone. No, he said. Please stay. A man near the ballroom called back. What's the delay? Alyssa looked at James. He uncovered the phone and finished the call. The transfer cleared with 6 minutes left. Caleb confirmed the full balance. Then he signed the replacement agreement and handed copies to both of them. You are now the contracting clients. Alyssa held her copy without looking at it. Caleb spoke into his radio. Open the ballroom. Begin guest entry. The doors opened 18 minutes later than planned. Nobody cheered. People stood, collected handbags, and waited for instructions. The music inside began softly. Alyssa started toward the ballroom. James remained at the welcome desk. She turned. What are you doing? We have to tell them. Tell them what? Why they waited. They don't need details. Your mother just asked. Alyssa's mother stood several feet away. She asked why the contract was canceled. Alyssa said, That's between us and Mary. The closed doors were in front of everyone. Say there was a payment delay. There was. Then say that. James looked toward the waiting guests. He raised his voice, though not enough to sound like an announcement. I'm sorry everyone had to wait. People turned toward him. He swallowed. Our reception wasn't under our own agreement when we arrived. We had relied on my mother's contract. Alyssa whispered, James. He continued. She ended it before service. Alyssa and I have now signed and paid for the reception ourselves. Someone asked, Why did Mary end it? James looked at me. I didn't help him. He rubbed his thumb over Howard's cufflink. Because I allowed my mother to be treated like she wasn't family while expecting her to pay. Alyssa turned away. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then Linda asked, Did you hear what was said outside? Yes. And you stayed quiet? Yes. The answer was barely audible. Linda nodded once. Thank you for telling the truth. It wasn't forgiveness. It was simply recognition that he had finally stopped editing. Alyssa faced the ballroom. We're losing more time. James looked at her. We already lost it. She walked inside without him. Caleb began directing guests through the open doors. James came toward me. Mom. I waited. Will you come in? I came for dinner. I mean with me. The introduction already started without us. We can tell them to wait. No. I want people to know you're my mother. They know. His eyes dropped. I handled this wrong. Yes. I'm sorry. I heard you. He waited for more. I gave him none. An apology in a lobby couldn't return the key, the toast, the photographs, or the weeks he had spent protecting his comfort. I entered the ballroom as a guest. Table 12 was near the windows. The people seated there made room for me. Nobody asked for an explanation. Linda sat elsewhere but checked on me before the meal. The standard white linens looked fine. The dinner arrived hot. There was no late-night food station. The bar closed at the original time. Alyssa sat at the front table with James. Her parents sat beside them. There was an empty chair near James. I didn't know whether it had been intended for me or added after the lobby. I didn't ask. The best man gave a short toast. The maid of honor spoke after him. When they finished, James whispered to the person holding the microphone. Then he looked toward my table. I shook my head. He understood. No improvised toast. No late repair performed for a room full of people. The microphone was set down. During dinner, Alyssa never came to my table. James came once. Do you need anything? No, is the food all right? Yes. He stood there for another second. Then he said, I'll call you tomorrow. Don't call tomorrow. His face fell. When? When you know what you're calling to do? He nodded and returned to the front table. I stayed through dinner. I watched James dance with his wife. I watched Alyssa laugh with her sister. For brief moments, the room looked like the wedding they'd planned. Then someone glanced toward the closed welcome desk, and the lobby returned to everyone's mind. I didn't enjoy that. I also didn't rescue them from it. At 9:15, I picked up my handbag. Linda met me near the main doors. Do you want me to walk you out? No. Stay and enjoy yourself. Are you sure? Yes. Caleb stood at the welcome desk reviewing paperwork. He handed me a cancellation receipt. Your deposit has been retained. You have no remaining balance. I folded the page into the blue folder. Thank you for handling it correctly. That's my job. Still, thank you. He nodded. Good night, Mrs. Watson. I walked out through the main entrance. The staff gate was closed. The delivery van had gone. Only a small security light remained above the service drive. At home, I hung the blue dress over a chair instead of returning it to the closet. I placed the folder in Howard's desk. The payment envelope was still in my handbag. The cashier's check inside was now useless. On Monday morning, I returned it to the bank. The employee canceled it and released the funds back to me. Then I went home and washed the blue dress by hand. James didn't call the day after the wedding. He called Tuesday evening. I waited because you asked me to. I asked you to know what you were calling to do. I do. What is it? I'm going to repay the deposit. I sat at the kitchen table. $12,000? Yes. With what? My earnings. Not Alyssa's parents? No. Not another loan? No. How long will it take? I've worked it out. 6 months. I didn't say yes. He continued. Alyssa and I used most of our savings for the reception. We can still pay you monthly. Why? Because you lost the deposit after I failed to act. You both failed. I know. Does she? He was quiet. She knows we owe the money. That wasn't my question. No, he said. She doesn't agree with everything I said in the lobby. Then this isn't repair yet. I know. That answer was better than another apology. What else are you going to do? I asked. He took a breath. I'm going to correct the story with everyone who heard the other version, not by saying there was a misunderstanding. No. What will you say? that I knew you were being excluded, that I asked you to keep paying, that I stayed quiet outside the hall. I looked at the blue dress drying near the window. And Alyssa, she'll have to decide what she says. That's true. I won't ask you for money again. That isn't temporary. I understand. Family dinners won't reopen financial access. I understand that too. I agreed to receive the repayment. Nothing else. The first payment arrived the following Friday from James's own account. $500. In the note, he wrote only, deposit, repayment, first payment. No heart, no apology, no request. I printed the confirmation and placed it inside the blue folder. Every Friday after that, another $500 arrived. James didn't miss a week. He didn't attach personal messages to the payments. He didn't call afterward to make sure I'd noticed. He simply paid. 3 weeks after the wedding, he corrected the family group message. He wrote, Mom did not choose to arrive separately. Alyssa removed her gathering location after Mom refused to give me the reception payment early. I knew that was happening. I allowed it. He also explained that I had funded the original reception and lost my deposit when I canceled before service. Alyssa didn't respond in the group. Several relatives did. Some apologized for assuming I had caused the delay. Others said they hadn't known the details. Linda wrote, Thank you for correcting this. I didn't add anything. A week later, Linda invited several of us to lunch at her house. Before accepting, I asked whether James and Alyssa would be there. Yes, she said. Did they ask you to arrange this? No. Did anyone expect me to make peace? I expect you to eat lunch. That was enough. James and Alyssa arrived before me. When I entered, James took my coat. Alyssa said, Hello, Mary. Hello. She didn't hug me. I appreciated that. Nobody needed to perform closeness we didn't have. During lunch, the wedding came up when Linda asked about the photographs. Alyssa's expression tightened. James set down his fork. Before we talk about pictures, I need to say something. He looked at the relatives seated around the table. What I said in the hall was true. I knew Mom had been excluded from planning. I asked her to keep paying anyway. When Alyssa told her to use the staff entrance, I heard it and stayed quiet. Alyssa stared at her plate. James continued, Mom didn't cause the contract problem. I did by expecting her protection without protecting her. Nobody rushed to comfort him. That mattered. Linda asked, Have you repaid the deposit? I'm doing it every week. How long will that take? 6 months. Alyssa spoke then. We're both repaying it. James looked at her. It was the first I'd heard that. She turned toward me. I transferred my share to James yesterday. Thank you for telling me, I said. Her face suggested she wanted more. I gave her nothing more. After lunch, Alyssa helped Linda clear the table. James asked whether I needed help carrying anything to my car. I didn't bring anything. He nodded. He was still learning that I could attend a family meal without arriving as labor. The following month, Alyssa sent me an invitation herself. We're having dinner Sunday. Would you like to come? I read the message twice. There was no request beneath it, no delivery, no check, no favor. I asked, Who will be there? Just James and me. What do you want me to bring? Nothing. I declined. Not yet. She replied, I understand. 2 weeks later, she asked again. I declined again. She didn't complain to Linda. She didn't send James to persuade me. She didn't post anything vague online. The third invitation was for coffee on a Saturday afternoon. I accepted. James opened the door when I arrived. He didn't hand me a task. Alyssa didn't ask me to look at wedding photographs. We sat in the living room for 40 minutes. James asked about the gutter over my back porch. I cleaned it. You climbed the ladder? The small one. He looked concerned. Then he stopped himself before offering to take over my house. If you ever want help, ask me. I will. That was different from assuming I needed him. Alyssa brought coffee on a tray. She had remembered that I took cream and no sugar. She set the cup in front of me without pointing that out. When I left, nobody asked when I'd return. The next invitation came a month later. then another. Sometimes I accepted, sometimes I didn't. My answer remained mine. The payments continued. After the 8th week, the note changed. Deposit repayment, James and Alyssa. The money still came in $500 amounts. James had taken additional weekend shifts. Alyssa canceled a trip they'd planned for later that year. Neither asked me to reduce the balance. One Friday, James accidentally sent $600. I returned $100. He called. "You didn't have to send that back." "Yes, I did. I thought I could get ahead." "Follow the repayment plan." He paused. "Okay." That call lasted less than a minute. No guilt, no request. No old argument returning through a side door. Near the end of the 5th month, Alyssa called me. "Not James, not Linda. I want to ask permission before I do something." "What?" "I want to remove the old wedding posts. They're your posts." "I know. But I don't want it to look like I'm erasing what I said instead of correcting it." I sat near the front window. "What are you proposing?" "I'll add a correction first. Then I'll leave it up for a week before removing everything." "What will the correction say?" "That the reception delay happened because we relied on your contract while excluding you from family arrangements, and that we paid our own replacement agreement. That's accurate." "May I include your name?" "Yes." "May I mention the entrance?" "If you use the exact words." She was quiet. "The staff gate." "Yes." "All right." The correction appeared that afternoon. It wasn't dramatic. She didn't call herself terrible or ask strangers to forgive her. She stated what she had done. She also wrote that I had arrived prepared to pay, and that her own instruction changed that. For a week, people could read the correction beneath the wedding photograph. Then she removed both posts. I didn't thank her. Correcting a false public version was her responsibility. The final repayment arrived 24 weeks after the first. James and Alyssa came to Cedar Street that evening. They called before coming. I opened the door and let them into the kitchen. James placed a printed payment record on the table. $12,000 total, he said. I checked the dates and amounts. Yes. Alyssa sat beside him. The three of us remained quiet for a moment. Then James said, "The deposit is repaid." "It is." "I know that doesn't fix everything." "No." He nodded. Alyssa folded her hands. "I've wanted to apologize before now." "Why didn't you?" "Because I knew you'd think I wanted forgiveness without finishing what we owed. You would have been right." "Yes." She took a breath. "I excluded you because I wanted control of the wedding. I accepted your money because giving up the money would have required giving up choices." I waited. She continued. "When you questioned the additions, I treated you like the problem. I removed you from the family gathering to pressure you into giving James the check." James looked down. Alyssa kept her eyes on me. "Outside the hall, I told you to use the staff gate. I knew it would separate you from the family entrance. James didn't make me say it." "No," I said. "He only allowed it." "Yes." "What are you apologizing for?" "For using your money while denying your place, for lying about your decision to the family, for trying to make access to your son depend on payment. That was clear enough. I accept that you said it," I told her. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "Do you accept the apology?" "I'll consider it while I watch what you do." She nodded. "That's fair." James spoke next. "I gave the house key back because I wanted you to feel the loss. I hadn't known whether that part came from Alyssa or him." "Thank you for telling me." "I'm ashamed of it." "You should be." He swallowed. "I'm not asking you to take a key again. Good. If you come to our house, we'll invite you. If you need access for some reason, we'll ask. That's how it should work." He looked relieved, but not comfortable. Good. Comfort had protected him too long. We agreed to one dinner the following month. Not every Sunday. Not holidays planned a year ahead. One dinner. When they left, James carried the empty coffee cups to the sink without being asked. Alyssa put on her coat and thanked me for hearing her. Afterward, I opened Howard's desk. The blue folder had become thick with payment confirmations, emails, the cancellation receipt, and Alyssa's public correction. I didn't need to keep all of it nearby anymore. I placed the folder in the back of the filing drawer. The cream notebook remained in front. I read the toast once more. Then I removed the pages about the wedding. I kept the stories about Howard and James. Those still belonged to me. The dinner at their house happened on a cold Sunday evening. That afternoon, James called. "Are you still comfortable coming?" "Yes." "Would you rather meet somewhere else?" "No. Do you want me to pick you up?" "I'll drive." "All right." No pressure followed. I brought nothing but my handbag. No food, no envelope, no key. When I reached their porch, I could hear dishes moving inside. For years, I had entered that house because something needed delivering, fixing, waiting for, or paying. That evening, I had been asked to come for dinner. The door opened before I knocked. James stood on one side. Alyssa stood on the other. Neither reached for my handbag. Neither gave me a task. James said, "Hi, Mom." Alyssa said, "We're glad you came." Then James and Alyssa held their front door open while I walked through it.